across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Shall we? Two minutes past 6, top of the morning. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. This is Talk Breakfast. And have I got a show for you? Breaking this morning, the Prime Minister strikes back, blasting his critics with a clear message: I'm here to stay. But can the beleaguered PM cling on? Can Starmer turn it around? He's had a pig flying outside the window. So does Starmer deserve another chance? Has he still got a mandate to lead? Can he turn it around, or is he the captain of a sinking ship? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK and your message to 87222, or leave us a voice note. We know you're busy. You might be washing the car as we speak. Perhaps you're getting the kids ready for their swimming lessons. 6 a.m, bit early for that. But you might be planning your weekend, so drop us a voice note. I want your opinions on the radio and on the telly. Because here at Talk, we are multimedia. And the DNA of this brand is radio, so you can hear us on DAB+, in-app and online. Talk Radio, my first job in broadcasting, can you believe it? 30 years ago, yikes. So you can hear us on the radio, lovely to have your company. Perhaps you got the kettle on, getting your first brew going of the day. You might still be snuggled in bed, in which case I'll speak softly so you can have a lie in. That's not going to last, is it? So you can hear us on the radio, but you can now watch us, because this is a TV show. And all you've got to do is head to YouTube, search Talk and Up We Pop, and Liam is directing our television outputs, doing a great job. The boys are natural. Our glorious leader, one of the finest minds in all broadcasting, the executive producer of Talk Breakfast, Dean Spencer, in the hot seat. Been smashing it with Kyle all week, and he's back. He's back for more. And a brand new star in the team. Kira is taking your calls, and we've got a simple question. There you go. Well deserved. Simple question this morning. This is what I want to ask you. Is it too late to save Britain? We've got an economy in freefall. We've got a divided society. We've got incredibly violent crime on the streets. We've got shoplifting and burglary and property theft and antisocial behaviour as the norm. Stabbings, sexual assaults. We're in big trouble, folks. It's 5 to midnight. Or is it 5 past midnight? What do you think? Is it too late to save Britain? Let's give Kira the best first day at Talk in the history of this brand. 0344 499 1000. Is it too late to save Britain? I want to know. I don't know. I do not have that information. You have that information, so I need it from you. There's more of you than me. Is it too late to save Britain? Please tell me. 0344 499 1000. And what about the BBC, by the way, who have blasted Brexit, saying that all the economists agree it's been bad for the economy? Has it? They just hate Britain, don't they? And they hate the public. 17.5 million people have just been insulted by the national state broadcaster. But as we approach the 10-year anniversary of the referendum, are we better off out? 0344 499 1000. You pick up that phone, you say, good morning, Kira. Here's what I've got to say. Here's whether it's too late to save Britain. Anything else? Yes, there's one other really important piece of news before we get to the front pages. And it's regarding our lead engineer, Dave Rhodes. Engineer Dave, Tech Op Dave. Now, let me tell you that there's been an ugly war. You would call it a Cold War. I think it's been a hot war between myself and TalkSport. It's not pretty at all. The management aren't happy. But this is my hill to die on. There's a tug of love going on between myself and TalkSport for the services of Dave the engineer. And let me tell you that I'm winning that battle. And I've got showdown talks after the World Cup with Ray Parlour, Adrian Durham and Jeff Stelling over drinks. But we're winning that war and he's with us all weekend, so don't miss it. While stocks last, we have Dave the engineer pressing the buttons. Go on, Dave, give us that weird alert sound effect that you do. Oh, family show. Folks, we've got the dream team. Today's show can't fail. I realise that makes me sound like the captain of the Titanic. This show is unsinkable. By the way, is this now the longest menu in the history of all broadcasting? Should we do, folks, would you like a 4-hour menu at some point? Should we just have the whole show as the menu? Look, can I salute you? Because it is Saturday morning and you're up. You may be at the tail end of a night shift, in which case I salute your contribution to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the great British economy. Perhaps you're a security guard. Our team here at News UK, who are elite level, have got an hour left on their shift. I probably shouldn't give details, should I, about that? The other thing is you've got taxi drivers, you've got factory workers, people in hotels, hospitality. Whatever you're up to, we've got your back. Is it too late to save Britain? Let's talk. Problem you've got, if you play that music for too long, you have to give them money. So I reckon the show is already in deficit this morning. It's called Prima Donna Like Me by the Struts, that tune, if you want to hear it later. Folks, I've got so much to get through in today's show. Don't forget Dolan's Dispatch is coming, some elite-level guests in the studio and down the line, and a big flagship question. And I think Dean Spencer loves this question, don't you, Dean? I think Dean is so on board with today's question. Is it too late to save Britain? That is the question. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but you do. Is it too late to save Britain? Richard in Leicester, good morning, Mark. Get Starmer in that asylum and let the rest of them, woke folk, go somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. Good morning, Mark, says Hev. Good morning, Hev. How are you? It's never too late to save the country, but the longer this stupidness goes on, it will definitely take a long time and determination to sort out our troubles. Never give up hope. I've got an exclusive for you, and I can't tell you who it is yet. But I've spoken to one of the very, very biggest names in politics in this country. And I mean very, very biggest names. In the last 24 hours, I had a long and intimate conversation with a very powerful person. And they told me in confidence that they think we have a decade before Britain becomes a third world country. Now, I cannot reveal who this person is, but it's a big name in politics. They think we've got a decade and we're done. And they used the term third world country. And I said, what does that mean? And they meant, well, gated communities and crime being the norm. Is it too late to save Britain? Good morning, Mark, says Amanda. Hello, Amanda. How are you this Saturday morning? Amanda says, good morning, Mark. I utterly despise Starmer and all the people who have turned this once great country into a basket case. Bill in Romsey. Good morning, Bill. Starmer will have a reshuffle and threaten the party with his option to call a general election. Wouldn't a general election be magical? OK, front pages before we get to my incredible studio guest. Daily Express, plan to protect 50 miles of French coastline, including sacred British monument. World Heritage status for memorial to D-Day heroes. What a wonderful idea. What a great campaign. And what a fabulous bit of journalism from the Daily Express to highlight that story. The I Weekend, McSweeney is already back advising PM. This is, of course, his chief of staff that left a matter of weeks ago amid the Peter Mandelson scandal. And that's how desperate Starmer is. because Starmer has no ideas. He hasn't had an original thought in his life. So he wakes up in the morning and thinks, what am I supposed to think today? Do I want taxes to go up or down? Do I want to stop the boats? Do I want to invest in the military? How much money should I give them? I don't know, because I'm an empty vessel. A completely empty, vacuous vessel. I'm not even a human being. I'm ChatGPT. I'm the world's first AI-generated prime minister. The human manifestation of AI gone horribly wrong. What do I think? Where's Morgan McSweeney to tell me what I think today? I mean, I think Starmer probably the worst prime minister in the history of the United Kingdom. I think he makes Neville Chamberlain, the wartime coward, look like Churchill. But McSweeney is back advising the Prime Minister because he's got no... Starmer, he's got no opinions. There's nothing. It's just a blank cheque. Let me explain to you what it's like, because he's an ex-lawyer. What do lawyers do? Lawyers don't think anything, Dean. Lawyers don't think anything. It's actually not their job to think. Because what happens with a lawyer, let's just imagine a scenario where there's a guy called Big Steve and he has stabbed his wife to death. The police come, he's there, he's got the bloody dagger. And it's a lawyer's job to defend Big Steve or to prosecute Big Steve. And they don't know which way it's going to go. But the lawyer's like, oh, am I defending Big Steve, or am I going to put him in prison? And they go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Actually, do you mind defending him? Next time you can be the prosecution, but do you mind being the defence on this? Yeah, sure, I'll get behind Steve and I'll make the case that he didn't do it, even though there was the bloody dagger and the cops arrived and etc. So that is lawyers. People don't realise that about the legal profession. Lawyers don't look at a case and go, my goodness, Big Steve is, the victim of a miscarriage of justice, and it's very important to me to pursue the truth and get justice for this guy because he didn't do it. I've looked at the evidence. The guy's innocent. That's not what lawyers are. Lawyers just take what they're given and they defend or they prosecute. And that is Starmer. That's why he's got no opinions. That's why you shouldn't have lawyers as politicians, because they're like a weather vane. They just go with here I am on the radio and the telly, and I'm the opposite of a lawyer because I tell you what I think. I'm actually the opposite. I'm either against or for Big Steve and his bloody dagger. And I don't come in the morning and go, right, what shall I think today? What do you want to hear? For my sins, for better or worse, I just tell you what I think. And you do the same with me, 03444991000. Lawyers are different and Starmer is different, which is why he's been such a disaster. I don't think lawyers should be prime ministers. What do you think is the perfect form of profession for a prime minister? I would humbly suggest CEO. I would suggest wealth creator, entrepreneur, not because they're I'm not saying they're the best people. You know, you've got nurses and doctors and teachers. You've got people that work in the charity sector, industrialists, mechanics, engineers, retail workers. Anyone in principle could be a great leader, but I do think someone that's run a large operation and is an entrepreneur that has created wealth, ideally from nothing, is surely a good person to have in number 10. Daily Mirror, King's birthday honours. Everyone should have a pal like Kev. Kevin Sinfield is an absolute hero. He's going to be Sir Kevin Sinfield. He has, of course, done so many charity campaigns in memory of Rob Burrow, who's a sporting legend who had motor neurone disease. So Rob Burrow's lovely widow, Lindsay, has hailed fundraiser Sinfield as he gets a knighthood. The Times, Burnham, I will cut welfare. He won't be squeamish in reducing the bill to fund defence. PM says it's his duty to fight any challenge. More front pages next. And one of the finest broadcasters in the land, live in the studio. My question to you is a simple one. Is it too late to save Britain? It's not too late to make a cup of tea. So get the kettle on. I'll see you in 2 minutes, 6:16.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is it too late to save Britain? 6:19 Talk Breakfast. Happy Saturday, one and all. Graham says, Mark, this fantastic country can be rebuilt, but not by Starmer. He's not the right man. I'm sure he's been a sapper, Royal Engineers, because he's an expert in demolition. Good morning, says Ruth, to you and everyone that listens to you. Great show. The PM has lost his mind. OK. More of your messages to come. Maybe a quick one from Sharon. Good morning, Mark. Britain definitely cannot be saved. This country is totally finished. Only Nigel Farage can save the country now. Well, there's a man that can save Britain. It's not Farage, it's not Starmer, it's not Andy Burnham. It's Rafe Hadelmanku, broadcaster, historian, political commentator, and now presenter on the New Culture Forum, which is doing some great YouTube shows.
Thanks very much. Yes, following the death of Peter Whittle, we've had a reshuffling, and I'm now hosting our flagship interview show, which is out tomorrow. Great interview with Ben Jones from the Free Speech Union about his book Island of Strangers, which deals, of course, with many of the issues as to whether we can save Britain and its free speech tradition as well. And then we have a great panel show out this morning at 10 a.m. If people aren't watching Talk, which they must be watching Talk, obviously, then do tune into our New Culture Forum YouTube channel with a great discussion about Belfast and Keir Starmer's plan to scan everyone's telephone. He's given tech companies 3 months to put spyware on everyone's phone to ensure they don't have child pornography, but at a great cost potentially to all of our freedoms.
That's a real worry, isn't it? And do you fear that the idea of banning social media for under-16s is a Trojan horse for wider censorship?
I think scanning everybody's phone for pornography is a Trojan horse. I'm actually in favour of under-16s. I think the evidence from psychologists is quite clear. We've seen a huge spike in self-harm, in depression amongst children, especially amongst young girls. Professor Jonathan Haidt at Harvard University is very strong on this. I don't know why mobile phone companies don't come out with kiddie phones. Phones for under-16. They could be bright yellow, pink colours or whatever. They could become collector's items.
Photograph of Dua Lipa on there, Taylor Swift, or maybe for the more discerning teenagers, Rafe Hadelmanku.
Yeah, in widescreen perhaps. But these phones would actually have GPS on them. You could use them as a normal phone, text on them, but you wouldn't have smartphone capabilities. But parents would still know where they are.
The other thought is that maybe families should be more attentive to the well-being of their children and should police access to smartphones. Why can't mum and dad say you're not having a phone?
That's a very sound Conservative position to take. Parents must take responsibility. Unfortunately, all parents are not responsible, and the question is, do we have to essentially leave it up to parents to decide what phones their children get? Because at the end of the day, children are being exposed to some of these things, we know. So I would think, actually, for me, under 16s are a difference. We don't allow them to smoke. We don't allow them to drink. We know that social media has an effect on their brains as well. You know, brains aren't developed till you're actually in your 20s. And we know about the effects it has on self-harm and so forth. So there may be a public health issue involved here.
Definitely, and it's just not healthy for them to be locked in their rooms staring at a small screen, doom scrolling as we call it, and these companies have very clever techniques to keep you hooked. Now, I'm a grown man, Rafe, and when I find myself doom scrolling, there's a little valve that engages and it stops me and I go, wait a minute, you're getting sucked in, put it away. A 12-year-old doesn't have that mechanism.
Precisely. And we need to understand billions and billions of pounds are spent deliberately devising ways to keep you hooked. And if these have the effect on our brains, we aren't immune from dopamine rushes when we see our posts going viral or getting more likes. That happens to everybody. Just think about what it does on impressionable youth who are so dependent upon peer culture.
Well, the worst I had, which I find is almost borderline abusive, is a network on YouTube called the New Culture Forum. And you get a Rafe video, which you've obviously had such a good time watching, and then just as you're about to go and get on with your day, the next one comes up.
The check's in the post. Thanks very much.
It's relentless. The Times newspaper, Burnham, I will cut welfare. He won't be squeamish in reducing a bill to fund defence. PM says it's his duty to fight any challenge. Let's talk about the big political story of the day. A clear message from the PM, Rafe, which is, I'm going nowhere, I will fight to the death. Meanwhile, Andy Burnham will do the candidates list in a moment. He's hoping to win Makerfield and via Makerfield, the House of Commons, and then number 10. Now, I'm confused about Burnham's offer here, because that is a right-wing position, isn't it, within the Labour Party, which is to reduce the welfare bill to fund defence. I understand the position of Wes Streeting as well, another prime ministerial hopeful. But how does that square with Burnham being the darling of the left?
Well, it doesn't square, and that's precisely the point. Burnham is now being all things to all people ahead of a by-election.
Surely not.
The question is, and we'll see him being all things to all people until such time as he may or may not become Prime Minister, after which perhaps we will see something closer approximating to the real Burnham. We shouldn't be surprised. Remember, Keir Starmer was the darling of the left when he was angling for Jeremy Corbyn's job, which is why so many people on the left feel a sense of betrayal, because he is not, he is not the item that they purchased at the checkout till when they voted for him. Andrew Neil has a great piece in the Daily Mail on page 25 pointing out the contradictions of Andy Burnham as Mayor of Manchester and as the Labour by-election candidate, saying, of course, that he was in favour of WASPy women, now reversing and U-turning on all of that, saying that he wanted to give migrants welfare handouts and passes to different things in Manchester, now, of course, against that idea. So, and, of course, advocating for Britain to go back into the EU beforehand, and now firmly trying to park his tanks somewhat on the Brexit camp. So I think that reveals the quality of a man. As Winston Churchill once said of politicians, it's very hard for a nation to look up to a man who always has his ear to the ground.
Well, that's a great line, and of course the man was a genius. It's going to be a bumpy time for the Prime Minister. It's being reported in several of the papers that McSweeney is back, his former Chief of Staff, advising the Prime Minister. And particularly with the exclusive on that is the Weekend. McSweeney is already advising the PM. Number 10's ex-Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, has returned to guide the Prime Minister in his moments of greatest peril. Why is Sir Keir Starmer so dependent on this man?
Well, you'd be inclined to think that perhaps Sweeney's got some of the Russians' compromat on Keir Starmer, given the fact that he seems to be unsinkable in Starmer's eyes. I mean, it leads to two different issues. One, how bad is the Labour Party's advisory pool that they only seem to have one person that could advise them? Is there nobody else out of all of the thousands of people that work for the Labour Party that can do the job? Secondly, is Keir Starmer intent on scuttling his ship? I mean, he seems to be making every single decision that is designed to annoy his Labour Party, upon whom he requires so much support at the moment. Everything he's done, whether it be Chagos, whether it be defence now, everything he's done seems to be intent on actually destroying any chance he has of winning re-election.
Well, indeed, I remember under the, for example, premiership of Margaret Thatcher, when advisers, the equivalent figures of Morgan McSweeney, whether it was Sir Bernard Ingham, William Whitehall in her administration, these were intelligent, big personalities. But they were not the Prime Minister's second brain or even first brain. Mrs Thatcher knew her mind. She took counsel and made decisions. That's not the setup at number 10.
Well, we also know that the Prime Minister is incapable of getting anything through, incapable of getting John Healey's defence investment plan through the Cabinet. So weak is he can't even convince his own Cabinet ministers who he appointed. And, of course, you know, the cardinal rule of being an advisor to the Prime Minister, as McSweeney was, and is again, is that once you become the story, your career is over in number 10. And he has been the story for far too long. He will again become the story, I've no doubt. So I can see no real clear reason for him to be there, other than, of course, once again, we see Keir Starmer prioritising his own career over the British national interest. We've seen that with the two-child benefit cap. We've seen that with his decision to U-turn on defence spending. Everything he seems to do now is in terms of how he can secure his own future rather than the country's future. And I'm sorry, we shouldn't be the government shouldn't be a vehicle for a Prime Minister's ego trip. Is
there an argument, Rafe, that Sir Keir Starmer remaining in number 10 as opposed to Andy Burnham would be the lesser of two evils?
This is the annoying position. I've said for a long time we need to get Starmer out, but then, of course, you sit down and you look at the contenders. Ed Miliband, good Lord, save us from that fate. Angela Rayner, fate worse than death. And then Andy Burnham, who is basically red, you know, he's, what rhymes with red with Andy Burnham? Nothing. But he is actually the red flag carrier for the left, has been. And remember, Andy Burnham is a twice failed leadership candidate. He couldn't even beat Jeremy Corbyn. The idea that he is some knight in red armour coming to save the party, I think is quite fantastical. I think he'll have a brief honeymoon period, after which looks like he's set for a catastrophic fall in the polls, equivalent to what Starmer has received, once he gets more media scrutiny. He's already had minor media scrutiny. We saw him on Newsnight. He didn't even know what the fiscal rules were of the Labour Party. There are only two rules. He couldn't even remember those two. I think being Mayor of Manchester and being Prime Minister are two different roles. We need a person who can steady the ship of state. I think he's just going to increasingly steer it into the already turbulent waters.
Most definitely. Well, you've posed a bit of a brain teaser there at 6:30 in the morning. We need a left-wing tabloid nickname for Andy Burnham, don't we? Because it was perfect for Ed Miliband when he was the leader of the Labour Party. Red Ed.
Exactly.
Scanned very nicely. Carl Burnham. Andy Guevara.
Andy Guevara. I like that. That's a rather good one, actually.
The answers on a postcard. Left-wing nicknames, please, for Andy Burnham. The Mirror, King's Birthday honours. Everyone should have a pal like Kev. Amazing, fantastic news, which is that Kevin Sinfield is to be knighted for all of his campaigning for motor neurone disease, and particularly in his wonderful, wonderful support for Rob Burrows, late Rob Burrows, who had MND. The Times newspaper, Burnham, I will cut welfare. And the Daily Telegraph, Miliband's push to be Burnham Chancellor. Folks, we're having a big conversation this morning, which is whether it's too late to save Britain. What do you think? What needs to happen? And do we still have time, whether it's border control, whether it's our divided society, whether it's the highest energy costs in the developed world, whether it's an economy in free fall? Is it too late now? Are we done? More front pages and more from the highly addictive and very Moorish Rafe Hadel-Manku after this 6:31, I should say. Talk breakfast, don't go anywhere.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast 6:33, and a simple question this morning: is it too late to save Britain? Bill in Cheshire, Mark, and hello Rafe. Starmer is like a character from Star Trek. Remember the Klingons? A nasty group of deluded dictators who always lose but keep coming back for another beating. Cliff in Berkshire. Good morning, Mark. I would suggest a good former profession for a PM would be stand-up comedian. They've got good communication skills and will make us laugh if it all went wrong, whereas a lawyer will just make us cry. Mark, are you interested? Well, Cliff, never say never. Listen, lots to get through. I've got to do the candidate list for Makerfield first, if I may. And this is the candidate list. So you've got a wonderful miscellany of options if you're in Makerfield. And it reads as follows. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats. Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham, Labour. Dan Clark, Libertarian. John Dyer, Independent. Ed Gemmell, Climate Party. Paul Gould, Independent. Alan Howling Loud Hope, the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. Now, with me in the studio, Rafe Hadel-Mancu, broadcaster and political commentator from the New Culture Forum. Rafe, what a story. The BBC claim that it is a settled argument now that Brexit has been bad for the economy. Your reaction?
It is not a settled argument. In fact, you know, on the New Culture Forum, we had two leading economists, Professor Julian Jessup and Professor David Payton, both of whom are great exponents of how Brexit hasn't damaged the UK economy. So the idea, and we did a whole 45-minute show on this, so how the BBC can say the settled economy is just further evidence of them living in a cosy central London bubble devoid from reality. You know, they constantly say that there's been a 4% to 8% hit on GDP. Some people say it's 4%, 8% a year. It's absolute nonsense.
Well, just to deal with that 4%, if we had lost 4% and we hadn't had Brexit, then we'd have had higher growth than China.
But this is it.
Does anyone believe that would have happened?
Yeah, and also, of course, no one is comparing us to France and Germany. We have outperformed France and Germany in our economic growth. Are we saying that Brexit is to blame for France and Germany's decline? The key point is, of course, and also all the models that are done, and this is all based on models, it's not based upon real-world data. The models look at the United States. Well, everywhere has done badly compared to the United States in the West, and that's because they had a huge fiscal injection of cash, which has boosted the economy, and they have embraced AI like nobody else has. So there are very real reasons why America is booming, but European countries aren't booming. Trade with the EU is 25%. That's how it has been for decades. And actually, the real reason we have had problems in this country is because of COVID, firstly. That huge burden on the economy with lockdowns and so forth, and the Ukraine war, which, of course, has made, amongst other things, energy prices have gone up through the roof. We have the most expensive electricity in the world. The SDP party put out a very good report saying that it's cost us £3 trillion over the last 20 years. To put that in context, £3 trillion is our entire debt. It's also our entire GDP. Think what we could have done if we had lower energy prices, which we're not getting thanks to Mad Ed, the Red Miliband. And, of course, nobody in the BBC or any of their favoured economists take COVID or the Ukraine war into account. It's all about Brexit.
You're absolutely right. And the inflation problem is very, very partly significantly linked to the war in Ukraine, as you mentioned, energy prices, food prices as well. And, of course, the inflationary policies of our current Chancellor. Inflation-busting pay rises, more borrowing, more debt, more spending. It doesn't take a genius to work out that that will spike prices. And I'm glad you mentioned the pandemic as well, because it's interesting how the likes of the BBC and the wider progressive left are very focused on the red herring of Brexit, which I would argue has largely been ignored by the economy. The economy has shrugged Brexit off. It's neither been virtuous nor a great scandal. It's just, you know, if you look at our growth, as you said, tracks quite favourably with Germany, France and others. COVID, on the other hand, the BBC never talks about the legacy of COVID and shutting down the economy for 2.5 years, for which they were the cheerleaders. In my view, a needless overreaction to a nasty but largely non-fatal virus.
Well, you know, in the April and May of the initial months of COVID, right when it first struck, I became rather controversial for saying we just need to protect the elderly and the vulnerable. If you're overweight, you've got comorbidities. If you are elderly, if you're above 80, because we know well over 90% of the deaths were related to those two groups. Protect them by all means. Keep them secure. Give them all Meals on Wheels and everything else that they need. But let the rest of society go about their daily business, because for them, COVID won't be more than a sniffle if they have symptoms at all. And indeed, that's been proven right, of course. We know who was going to die from COVID. And of course, as a result of that, we have essentially penalised and punished in draconian ways the children of this country who lost out on their education, also university people who couldn't go to their campuses and so forth. So we have actually put millstones around the neck
mental health,
of our mental health
waiting lists.
NHS waiting list. The costs were far too high. And the NHS is supposed to do something called triaging, determining who is, who is most needy in society. They do that in terms of who gets treatment, but we should also do it as a nation as to who is going to be most severely impacted by these policies. And I think the BBC don't touch COVID in the same way they don't touch immigration, because they have been the champions of COVID lockdowns, the champions of mass immigration, the champions of the asylum system. And all three of those things have now come back to bite us severely, particularly in 2026, and they're too embarrassed because they'd have to admit to their own culpability in dragging this nation down.
Well, you've actually really put your finger on it. If you look at the big public policy mistakes of the last 2 decades, the COVID overreaction, which has cost the economy about £500 billion, net zero, which won't save the planet, whilst China, India and Brazil burn fossil fuels for fun, and open borders. All of these have been policies from the political establishment and cheered on by establishment media outlets. And all of those things have destroyed the country.
And I would say, all of this has happened under 14 years of allegedly conservative rule by a party that I believe is the Conservative in-name-own party. And we must, understand what has happened to this country. We haven't had proper right-wing government, as I would see it, in this country. And that's one of the reasons we've been put on the road to hell, with a road paved with good intentions, which many of us were calling out from day one. And that's why it is so important, I say, to unite the right and finally get into office a real right-wing government that is able to take the decisions that no other parties in British political life seem willing to do. And we are at an existential crisis. We can save Britain, but we only have 10 years, I would say, to do it, because no one in the political world, apart from me, seems to point out that right-wing voters are dying at a far faster rate than left-wing voters. 1.4 million are going to die who are right-wing voters by 2029, compared to only 400,000 left-wing voters. And crucially, we aren't seeing more right-wing voters amongst the youth. For the first time in history, they're not becoming more conservative as they get into their early 30s. That's because they've been indoctrinated by the education system, by the university system, by the media world. And we need a right-wing government to reverse that. Not to have a right-wing youth either, but to give balance back into the education system, get rid of the teacher training programs that seem to create radically left teachers as well. And that will only be done by a proper right-wing government. So people need to wake up, put the egos aside, put your own party affiliations to the side. The left are very good at tactical voting when it comes to elections, and particularly by-elections. That's why we're seeing Andy Burnham do so well. I don't care what party you support in this by-election or in the general election. Think about the nation and vote for whichever candidate you think is most likely to beat Andy Burnham. Because if Burnham wins in Makerfield, he will become Prime Minister. Make no mistake about that.
Is it too late to save Britain? Here is a voice note from Nick.
Morning, Mark. It's Nick from Loughborough. No, I don't think it's too late to save the country. However, it's going to be the devil's own job. For whoever comes in next is going to have to spend all their time picking through 30 years of Blair's insidious Fabian left-wing march through the institutions, which has changed our system of governance. Hopefully, they thought, forever, but I don't think it is too late. But the other thing we must never forget is that the people that are asking us to vote for them at the next election are the same people that cowardly and needlessly shut this country down through pointless and cowardly lockdowns. And the same people that are asking us to vote for them now are the same people that destroyed our economy by such a mindless act of self-destruction. Mark, have a good day.
What a fantastic voice note that was. Is it too late to save Britain? Coming up, more front pages, and the Pope has just said that we're all migrants. Full reaction next.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:45, Talk Breakfast. Happy Saturday, one and all. I hope you're having a good start to your weekend. Is it too late to save Britain? Here's a voice note from Phil.
Morning, Mark. It's Phil from Shropshire. I live in South Africa for 10 months of the year. I'm over here at the moment for about 7 weeks. So I see it in a more condensed form. For example, we live in gated communities. We have paid for armed response units, but we feel safe. But it is a third world country. As I said, I'm over here for 7 weeks, and I've seen the changes in a condensed form. And since the day I arrived here, all I've noticed is a complete despondency, a fear, a general misery of the future and what this government has caused. I don't know what the answer is apart from a change of government, but I think in reality it's gone too far now. I don't think we can ever get back to what it was, 10, 20 years ago.
Well, thank you for that, Phil. A rather sobering voice note, but that's the conversation we're having this morning, and I make no apologies for having it. Is it too late to save Britain? We know what we need to do to save Britain, don't we? We have to have border control. We need to have cheap energy. Yes, we can have solar panels and we can make sure about pollution, all the rest of it, but we need cheap energy. Otherwise, we've got national security issues. Plus, we need to protect industry. We need a multi-ethnic society which is wrapped around British values, and we need an economy that lives within its means. It's not complicated, is it? It's quite clear what the country needs, but is it too late? Can it be done? Is it too late to save Britain? We're taking lots of your calls this morning, 03444991000. Meanwhile, Pope Leo has used the final day of his week-long tour of Spain to stress that all of us are migrants, as he praised the power of integration, adding, yesterday's foreigner may be today's brother and neighbour. With me in the studio, Rafe Hadelmanku, broadcaster and historian. Rafe, this is social engineering from the Pope, isn't it? And leftist propaganda.
Yeah, well, I'm a Catholic. My family are staunch Catholics, so I'm always reticent to criticise His Holiness. But yes, I mean, well, what else do you expect a Pope to say, really? Although, given how bad our migrant situation has become, particularly in places like Spain, which, of course, is one of the most deadly of the crossing routes to the Canary Islands, I think perhaps putting his parishioners in Spain and Portugal first over his migrants in Africa would be good. Of course, we know most Catholics are now coming from the Third World, so of course perhaps he's appealing to them too. What he means by calling us all migrants, obviously it's nonsense. He's referring to that final pilgrimage we all make to heaven, and that's how he's using this term migrant. But I would say we don't become migrants in that sense if you do believe in heaven until we die. We're not dead yet. Britain isn't dead just yet. So until such time as we are, let's talk the truth here. Migrants are not a benefit. We have all the economic evidence. And let's distinguish between types of migrants. We don't want migrants coming here from the Third World who are a net drain on the economy from the moment they set foot here, who are low-skilled, low earners, who are have a higher propensity for crime, given the nationalities we tend to invite into this country. Yes, migrants from Switzerland, from Germany, from Japan, increasingly from Poland and elsewhere.
Nurses from Nigeria, no problem. Doctors,
they are a benefit.
Doctors from Singapore, engineers from Nairobi, no problem. It's quality and quantity, which is the conversation we need to have around immigration.
As with all issues, quality is far better than quantity, exactly. And it's time that people like the Pope, I think, has to think about... We're phrasing things in the way that the Danes did. The way that the Danes were able to unite the left and the right over issues like migration was getting their far-left trade union prime minister to say, look, we're not being cruel to migrants when we say we have finite resources. We know that you love our welfare state. You love the fact that we look after our elderly. We won't be able to do that if we have open-door immigration. And the Danes are sensible people. They said, actually, you know what? Yes, we do love our foreign neighbours, but we love our own neighbours even more. And so we're going to prioritise our own people and we're going to close the borders down. That is a sensible, caring, loving approach to your neighbour.
Well, I read a very interesting article about Denmark that you've touched on, and they had what they've described as their Farage moment in 2014. And that is a settled issue, as you said, across the political spectrum. I believe that they're processing around 50 to 100 asylum cases annually.
Yes, well, the goal of the Danish Prime Minister, imagine this from a Prime Minister, she said we want 0 asylum seekers by a far-left trade unionist. Impossible to imagine Starmer or Burnham or Rayner coming out with something like that. But it's worked. Denmark has got their asylum numbers down to levels not seen since the 1990s. And you say that Denmark had its Farage moment in 2014. I'm afraid to say Britain has far overtaken anywhere that Denmark was in 2014. Even in 2014, our situation with migrants was worse than Denmark has ever experienced. They were a very culturally homogenous country with over 90% Danes. They experienced a rapid amount in a short period, but it's still nothing compared to what we've experienced.
And that's
here.
the great irony. And because it was a smaller, wealthy, rather homogenous country and society, they felt the impact of immigration more keenly, which is why politicians across the spectrum said no. Whereas because I think we're such a large country and we've had a multi-ethnic society for a long time, it has happened more subtly and more insidiously here.
It has, and the great test is going to be Ireland, because Ireland is also a small country of only 5 million people. They've had such huge numbers. They've had far more immigration than we've experienced in terms of per capita, and yet they seem far more beholden to the ideology of woke by their left-wing politicians than is the case in Denmark. And that's a surprise, because Ireland has had to fight for its independence independence, fight for its national identity in a way that the Poles and the Hungarians also did. But the Poles and the Hungarians, they know what it's like to lose your culture, to lose your identity, and to be under the jackboot of an authoritarian regime which clamps down on free speech, which pulls down statues, which rewrites your history, changes your banknotes and all that sort of thing.
Kills your economy.
Ireland is experiencing the same thing, but for some reason the leaders of Ireland don't seem to have the same sense of urgency about these issues, although, of course, the Irish people can feel it very real. And that's why the Irish have been taking to the streets, both in the north and in the south, in recent couple of years, in a way that we haven't seen in England. I think England's been top dog for so long, we've never had to fight for our culture or identity. We're like that frog in the increasingly boiling pot of water that isn't aware of what we're losing.
Most definitely, and my parents are Irish, or my father's passed now, but my mum is still around, and so I'm of Irish heritage, and Ireland is being destroyed at the moment, and the political establishment should hang their heads in shame. And I think that the Irish are probably having a similar conversation around whether it's 5 to midnight or 5 past midnight. Can Ireland be saved? The housing, crime, the economy, it's all a catastrophe. And it's shocking that it's the left that have done this. I mean, we highlighted 3 policies that have really hurt these great Western nations: the COVID overreaction, net zero and open borders. I mean, you've got other sort of side issues like the cult of welfarism, but I think for me those would be the big 3 things of the last couple of decades. And it's been visited upon these populations by centrist or centre-left administrations. And yet all of those 3 policies, particularly bad for poor people. The COVID overreaction, that kills the economy. Well, that means you're less able to look after the poor because you've got no money. Net zero, we know that expensive energy is bad for industry, which employs working class people. Plus, there's a small matter of heating your own home. And then there's the open borders, which creates further competition for precious state resources among the poor. So the big 3 flagship policies, all bad for the poor, all delivered by the left.
Well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that that's where we are. Because, of course, what has been the story in this country and around the world, around the West over the last decade, it's been that schism on the left, where the traditional small c conservative, patriotic left-wing voters have left the mainstream left-wing parties and gone to places like Reform, who are concerned about the poor, who are actually focused on issues like immigration. You know, the former trade unions leaders, they were pro-Brexit. The trade union workers were pro-Brexit. They were anti-lockdown because of the damage it would cause to their workers.
Anti-net zero.
And they were anti-net zero, and they were anti-migration historically because they knew the impact that would have on their own workers. So again, this is not a left versus right argument. This is a common sense argument. I mean, the great tragedy during Brexit was that we lost Tony Benn just before the campaign, who was an ardent leftist pro-leaving the EU campaigner, and we lost Bob Crow, the RMT union leader, who wanted to set up a left-wing version of UKIP to make the left-wing argument, Legxit for Brexit. So we've lost these sound voices on the left who are actually much more in tune with left-wing voters. But we shouldn't be surprised that the metropolitan elite, the Islingtonian sets, the Keir Starmers and Ed Miliband of the world, this new left who are looking at diversity and minorities as the foot soldiers for the left-wing revolution rather than the working class, that they're coming up with all of these. Remember, the true left-wing intellectual is an internationalist, not a nationalist. They don't believe in borders. They hate the nation state. As I've said many times, when Peter Hitchens was a far-left Trotskyist, he said we wanted mass immigration not because we loved migrants, but because we hated Britain.
Well, and look how it's all played out. There is such a strong left-wing argument for border control and stopping the boats. There is such a strong left-wing argument to scrap net zero. And there was such a strong left-wing argument to take a Florida, Texas or Sweden approach to the pandemic. None of those things have happened. And as you've said now, left-wing voters are flocking to Reform in particular, but other parties, the SDP, maybe even the Tories here and there, Rupert Lowe, the list goes on. By the way, I was raised Roman Catholic as well. And what a strange parallel universe that we now inhabit, Rafe. The Pope, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, a famously conservative movement, is led by a woke left-wing propagandist.
Well, I don't think he was as far left as his predecessor was. I think we had under Pope Francis definitely a far left activist. I think Pope Leo is, for example, he's still socially conservative on gay rights. He refuses to bless gay unions or anything of that sort. On abortion, still very strong. On not having and having celibate male priests, very strong as well. But I think the Catholic Church has always been open to this idea of migrants and refugees. It's in the DNA, I suppose. They always cite the fact, of course, that the Holy Family were refugees when they went into Egypt. But of course, there's a very different thing about the type of migrants we had today. It was fine after World War II when we were talking about Jewish refugees, and we were talking about Eastern Europeans like the Poles. There were 250,000 Poles after World War II who couldn't go back to Poland because it was behind the Iron Curtain, and many of them would go to prison for what they had done beforehand. But nobody forecast the mass movement of entire populations across borders thanks to modern transportation routes and people just making the long drive. That's why I've said, and I wish that someone like the Pope would advocate for this, we need to get rid of the UN Convention on Refugees 1951, and because it was designed for that post-war world, create a new convention around the world, a new UN convention that says refugees must be housed within their continent of origin. Because ultimately it's culture that determines whether you're going to be a successful assimilator and your religion. So if you're African from Sudan, you go elsewhere in Africa. You're fleeing Vietnam, you go elsewhere in Asia. You're fleeing Palestine, you go elsewhere in the Middle East. That's the key thing. And you should be geographically close to where you came from. And if you're Ukrainian, then you come into Europe because you're Christian and you're European, you understand our ways of life, you have the same cultural norms and the same worldview. And that's the avenue that a pope should be taking, or any religious person, because that's the more humane thing for everybody, because migrants themselves will be happier to assimilate into a culture they recognise.
Most definitely. Well, let me tell you, he's coming in hot this morning. I'm delighted to say that Rafe Hadel-Manku is going to stay with us into the next hour, and we're going to be also joined by legendary former top cop Mike Neville to talk about law and order in this country. But is it too late to save Britain? What do you think? Have we got time? What would you do? What does that look like? 0344 499 1000. Chris says, good morning, Mark, and good morning, Rafe. Andy Burnham will never stop the boats. Amanda, Mark, it will take an exceptional person to save this country. We can only hope Nigel Farage is the one. Got a nickname for Burnham from Sean? Crash and Burnham. Nicely done. Lots to come.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breakfast. And breaking this morning, the Prime Minister strikes back, blasting critics with a clear message. I'm here to stay, but can the beleaguered Premier turn things around, or is he now the captain of a sinking ship? Meanwhile, the Pope says we're all migrants. Is he right? And the BBC blast Brexit. But as we approach the 10-year anniversary of the referendum, are we better off out? And we're having a big conversation this morning about the country. We have the highest energy costs in the developed world. We have the return of unemployment, an economy in freefall, the cult of welfarism, where the cost of welfare payments is now higher than the income tax take of the country. We've got a divided society, ghettoised communities, violent crime on the streets. Shoplifting, property theft and antisocial behaviour are the norm. We got problems, baby. But my question to you this morning is a simple one. Is it too late to save Britain? See, I don't know. I don't know. I know you think I know, but I don't know. I have no answer to that question, so I need you to help me today. I do not know. Is it too late to save Britain? I know what needs to happen. And I'll share my thoughts on that with you shortly. Stop the boats, border control, sensible high-quality immigration, cheap energy, drill, baby, drill. Build some bloody houses. OK, I know what we need to do, but is it too late? That I don't know. So please help me. 0344 499 1000. We have a brand new member of the team today. It's been, I've got to tell you, I've had a clear out. Sacked a lot of people on Friday. The dole queue. Of course, I'm joking, but we've got a brilliant new recruit. Kira is taking your calls. 0344 499 1000. Tell Kira what you think this morning. Pick up that phone. 0344 499 1000. Kira, here is my answer to the big question, can we save Britain? Because I don't know, but you do, so please help me. I need help, we know that. That's long established. 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk in your message to 87222. You can also leave your opinion, your message via a voice note. We know you're busy on a Saturday morning. Whatever you're up to, your weekend starts here. So get the kettle on, let's get to work. And I'm delighted to say you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can watch the show as well, because this is a TV show. Just head to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. Some front pages, Daily Telegraph, Miliband's push to be Burnham's Chancellor. And no artist gave us greater joy than David Hockney. The Times on Saturday, Andy Burnham, I will cut welfare to boost defence. The Daily Mirror, King's birthday honours. Everyone should have a pal like Kev. Kevin Sinfield is now Sir Kevin Sinfield, following his campaigning work for motor neurone disease. The Eye Weekend, what a story. McSweeney is already back advising the PM. His former Chief of Staff has returned for regular meetings with the Prime Minister. The Daily Mail, Minister missing in action, farce as new Defence Secretary hides from the media on his first day. What a comedy outfit this government is. What a shower. What a pantomime. Let's get some common sense and some robust opinions from one of my favourite broadcasters, historian and star on the New Culture Forum, who have a range of brilliant YouTube shows. Rafe Hadelman-Ku. Good morning, Rafe.
Good morning to you.
Is it too late to save Britain?
It's not too late to save Britain, but I would say we must always have hope. But I'd say we are 1 minute to midnight, and we only have perhaps 10 years to save this country. As I've just recently said, you know, more right-wing voters are dying off every year than left-wing voters. Are not being replenished. And I think people need to have a reality check and a wake-up call. In every single general election of the 21st century, with the exception of 2015, more people voted for left-wing parties than voted for right-wing parties. The reason we've had a strong, allegedly conservative government this century is because the left-wing vote has been split between Labour, the Greens, Lib Dems, Plaid Cymru and the SNP. The right have always been united under one umbrella. And if we split the right, as we have split the right, we are never going to get right-wing government in the future. If Andy Burnham wins in Makerfield, he is the only person who can beat Starmer. At least that was the case last month when polling showed Starmer could beat Miliband, Streeting and Rayner, but would lose to Burnham. And if you think life is bad under Starmer, you ain't seen nothing yet, because whilst Burnham is posing as a centrist, he is far to the left of Starmer, I would say, on many economic issues. You just know that because who is the person on the front page of the Telegraph who wants to be the next Chancellor and who is apparently advising already Andy Burnham, or Che Guevara, as you call him, is Ed the Red Miliband, the man who has basically contributed to the fact that we have the most expensive electricity in the world, the guru, the god of net zero, which has basically tied two hands behind our back, whilst the Chinese and the Indians and the Russians well, not the Russians, but the Chinese and the Indians leap forward with their GDP levels. It's absolute madness. We need to wake up to what this is doing. We only have 10 years left and to get this country back on the right road, to reverse the long march through institutions, and to ensure that we do get our children taught properly.
Most definitely. Rafe, we loved having you in the studio. We know you've got a busy day today, so I'm going to let you scarper. And one of the important things you'll be doing is commentating on the Trooping the Colour.
Yes, today is, of course, His Majesty's official birthday, one of the great state occasions, a rare moment in the calendar when we can be proud to be British, when we see our glorious armed forces so badly served by this government doing what they do best and showing the world how our strict training and military precision leads to the great scenes we'll see of ceremonial pomp and pageantry.
Let me tell you, Rafe, that you're a great patriot and do this country proud.
As are you.
Oh, may God bless you for that. Rafe Edelman-Koo, political commentator, broadcaster and historian, and you'll be able to hear his wise words on other networks reporting on the Trooping the Colour. We're going to cover that ourselves at great length because it's an important national occasion. Is it too late to save Britain? That is the conversation we're having this morning. I'll take your calls in just a moment. Meanwhile, the BBC have caused controversy because they have claimed that it's a settled argument now that Brexit has damaged the British economy. Let me help you with this, BBC. It is not a settled argument, not one bit. Because the bottom line is that our economic growth has tracked very healthily with Germany since we left the EU. We've got record trade with the EU. We're not paying £20 billion a year for the privilege of membership. I think it's been a roaring success. Is it too late to save Britain? John is in Scunthorpe. Good morning, John. How are you this morning? John, lovely to have you on the show. Welcome. You are the first caller. By the way, how did you get on with our brand new producer, Kira? Did she look after you when you called this network?
She looked after me. She's lovely.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Listen, John, what do you think? Is it too late to save the country?
I think it probably is, sadly. These clowns in charge, I don't really have faith in a lot of other people either. Not even sure even Nigel Farage to save us.
And why do you think it's too late, John? Because we know what needs to happen, don't we? We need to end illegal immigration. We need cheap energy. Yeah. We need to build houses. We need an economy in the black, not the red. But why do you think it's too late for all of that, John?
Well, you get called far-right racist if you voice concerns about the levels of immigration.
Yeah, I mean, that's the awful thing. That is the conversation that's become very toxic.
And it was discussing what happened to Henry Novak. That took the word of someone calling him a racist.
Yeah, they believed his accuser rather than a man bleeding to death. And John, can I ask you about anger? Because today's Dolan's dispatch is about the fact that violence is wrong and we must follow the law, but that we're entitled to be angry about how violent our society has become. Do you think anger is justified?
No. You've got to try and do it in different, use it in different ways.
Yeah, and how would you do that?
I just need to vote these clowns out next general election.
Well, John, listen, I think that the concerns you've got are shared widely. And John, have a lovely Saturday. We'll speak soon. John thinks it is too late to save the country. I don't think it is, but I think it's urgent. And I think it all centres on the next election, because I don't think Turkeys vote for Christmas. Nigel Farage thinks that there may be an economic meltdown and a snap election next year. It's always possible. But I think it's likely that they will limp on until 2029, especially if Andy Burnham becomes PM, because he'll want 2.5 years in power, because he'll know that he may lose that next election. So he needs a chunk of time in office. So I suspect that we do go to 2029, at which point it's a pivotal moment for the country. If you have a left-leaning administration that wins in 2029, well, then by my mathematics, that will be the rest of this parliament plus 5 years. That's 8 years. That's the best part of a decade of more leftism, of more open borders, of more cult of welfarism, and an economy in the red, not the black. More expensive energy, more net zero, more of these failed policies, more authoritarianism, more divided societies because of the failure of the socialist multicultural experiment. So I think it's all about the next election. But after that, all bets are off. What do you think, folks? Is it too late to save Britain? 7:14. This is Talk Breakfast.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is it too late to save Britain? You're listening to Talk Breakfast. 0344 499 1000 is my number. We'll get to your calls shortly. Live with us now down the line is retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Good morning, Mike.
Yes, good morning, Mark.
Really good to see you. We know what needs to happen. We need border control. We need to stop the boats unilaterally. We need cheap energy. We need industry. We need to make our own goods again. We need an economy that lives within its means. We need a multi-ethnic society united around British values. Those are the things we need, Mike. But is it too late to do them?
I don't think it's too late. I don't think it's too late to do them, Mark. I think it's, but it will take a big effort. It will take a real shift in government to do this. And I think one of the things would almost to be get rid of most of the civil service, because if another party takes power, say, for example, Reform, the civil service, I think, will try and drag them back. It'd be easy to say, take your money, go home, and just don't interfere, because the last thing you need is these people in the office just dragging back on policies. And we've seen it time and time again with the Conservatives, where they were stopped from doing what they wanted to do. And I think that is the biggest issue. The blob, or the swamp, as Donald Trump would call them, they are the issue. And
the issue we've got, Mike, is just the cult of leftism, isn't it? Why is socialism the failed idea that never dies? Why does it never go away, Mike?
I think because every generation's naive enough to try it. Because the socialists, of course, it's always the left who want younger and younger voters. The younger and younger people the more daft they are. The more they think, oh, if we share everything out, everybody will take part. And it's not until you get a bit older you think, do you know what? I remember my mother working, my family, very traditional Labour background from the north, and she realised that she was working 3 jobs in the morning, full time in the day, and then in the evening bar work, and the woman next door was on benefits, and that's when she decided, oh, I must not vote for Mrs. Thatcher, because it's no good saying if we share it out, because there are lazy people in this world who will take advantage, but socialism fails because often the younger people think we'll give it a go. And you look, every generation we have to suffer this nonsense, and no one ever learns, because we always have younger people. Personally, I think the voting age should be about 30. Well, we get all these reports, don't we, saying the brain isn't fully developed until you're 25, and yet the left want people voting at 16.
It's a real worry. Meanwhile, the police force that dismissed a volunteer for questioning Islam spent the equivalent of 46 police constable salaries on diversity and inclusion, Mike. West Yorkshire Police had 19 uniformed and civilian staff working in diversity roles last year, with the force spending more than £1.4 million on salaries and training sessions. There is a sickness at the heart of British policing, isn't there?
There is, and it's throughout the public, through the establishment, really. This wokeism has infected it. But you know what, Mark? I look, West Yorkshire Police are a major police force. They should be solving crime across very busy areas, Leeds and Bradford. And I looked at their Peel inspection report. Now, the Peel inspection report is done every 2 or 3 years, and it's Her Majesty, or His Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary, and they go in and check the force for different things. But what made me smile here is that it was inevitable. I looked at it, investigating crime requires improvement. So we know what the police are like. They're simply solving not enough crime. But you know what? It also, building a diverse workforce required improvement. So they've employed all these people who are allegedly there to do diversity, and they have failed as well. So not only are they wasting money on people to do this, these people are failing in what they're supposed to do. So it's a double whammy for the people of West Yorkshire, who deserve a much better police force.
Meanwhile, this beleaguered government, Mike, limp from one disaster to another. Front page of the Daily Mail, farce as new Defence Secretary hides from the media on his first day. Minister missing in action is the headline. The new Defence Secretary was missing in action as Labour's military woes descended into farce after being parachuted into the top role. Former airborne officer Dan Jarvis kept a low profile on his first day, replacing John Healey, who quit on Thursday with a blast at defence spending plans. This was an important procurement event looking at drones, and this guy wouldn't face the media. This is a hot mess, isn't it?
A mega mess. And what gets me, you've got this defence... Whoever thought of calling it the Defence Investment Plan, DIP, when it's going to go down? Nobody could have thought of a better name. And what strikes me, Mark, is I was a young soldier out in Germany and then Northern Ireland in the 80s. And in the 80s, there was something like 200,000 soldiers in West Germany alone, regiments full of tanks. And now you could fit the British Army in Wembley Stadium. They've been failed by the Tories and this Labour government. It's simply not good enough. And the other thing is the one thing that gets me with the armed forces, it's not just about fighting capability. It's about the social impact. I come from a sort of terraced house, Coronation Street house in Bolton, and the army gave me a real opportunity to improve. And it really offers, particularly working class lads, a ladder to escape deprivation and make something of their lives, and it makes their family loyal to the nation as well. And every opportunity that they get rid of a position in the armed forces, whether it's that we laugh at each other being Army, Navy or Air Force, we all claim we're the best. They're all good, and every time they take a place away, they steal an opportunity from a working class lad. And how many working class lads at the moment are claiming this PIP and getting more money on PIP and being idle than they would be doing as a private soldier and probably developing their life? It's just scandalous, really.
Most definitely. Work is good for the mind, body and soul, isn't it? And I think that the military, notwithstanding that they protect this country, are also just an important part of the culture of Britain.
As we'll see today, you'll see soldiers on parade today from the Foot Guards regiments in those smart red tunics and bearskins. A great friend of mine is a ex-5-generation Coldstream Guard. Another friend of mine, ex-Grenadier. And, but those soldiers and that precision drill, that expertise, they're also excellent fighting troops as well. And all those lads there on parade, they need to be supported. But there used to be 2 battalions of every Foot Guards regiment. Now there's only 1, and it just shows how things have gone down and down and down.
Most definitely. I mean, if I think what the military represents, Mike, it's discipline, order, courage and work. And those are values that are diminishing in this country.
And loyalty to the country as well. That's a big one as well.
It's a very good point.
It binds everybody together. As you work as a team, you really learn. As young lads are invariably idle, and you're the sergeant, the sergeant major. I don't. My wife is hopeless at housework. Fortunately, I'm army trained, so I can iron my own kit, wash my own stuff, and tidy the house, because otherwise it'd be an utter disaster. I hope she's listening.
And listen, I've met Mrs. Neville, and I can understand why you tolerate those weaknesses, because she's stronger in other departments.
Yeah, very much so. A dedicated nurse.
Glad to hear it. Listen, I think you're so right about the patriotism as well. And obviously, this issue now around defence is a huge, huge problem. Do you think in the end that we'll get the investment we need? Because I just worry, Mike, that Labour have a blind spot when it comes to the military.
Yeah, absolutely. What always strikes me about Labour, people who vote in the armed forces vote in Labour. When I was in West Germany, the Labour MPs were sticking up for the Soviet Union. And when I was in Northern Ireland, you had Labour MPs sticking up for the IRA. And so the Labour Party have always had a difficulty with loyalty. I think it's George Orwell, wasn't it, who said that the socialists in the 20s, they'd rather steal from the poor box than to stand to attention for God Save the King. So, and it's not this. So this is not a new thing, and they've got to, the left have to buy votes, so that welfare vote costs a lot of money, and that's sapping the life out of the nation. That welfare money should be better diverted to defence, and as I've said, it would be it's cruel. The Labour Party are cruel, really. They claim to be kind by dishing out welfare benefits, but those young lads who are on PIP would be better served through life if they did 4 or 5 years in the army. It would make them better people, the nation would benefit, and all these things would come together. But I'm afraid Labour will never be the best on defence.
It's a real worry, isn't it? Folks, our question this morning is a simple one. I don't have the answer. which is whether it's too late to save Britain. Is it too late? Have we missed the boat, or can this country go back to what it once was? Here's a voice note from Ben.
Morning, Mark. Ben from Birmingham. 7 hours into probably what's going to be a 13-hour shift. I think it possibly is too late to save the country. Let's say Nigel Farage gets in and he's everything he's promising to be, which I don't think he will be. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He's certainly better than the other options by a country mile. He's going to have that much pushback from the Conservatives, Labour, the Greens, and more importantly, the civil service, because of the years of indoctrination and the deep-set rot. They're going to struggle to get anything done that they want to get done. And unfortunately, people that don't pay attention to what's going on are going to get bored and upset and feel like they've been let down because they haven't held up to their promises, not because they haven't tried to hold them out, but because they've been prevented from being able to carry them out. The damage that's been done thus far to the country, it's going to take a good 2 terms to even start to take a chunk out of it. And I just don't think, with the pushback and the global elites and everything else that's against them, the system, I just don't think it'll happen. I don't think the people will be able to have the vision to trust them. It's 2 terms.
Ben, thank you for that. And that's a sober assessment of the current situation. I believe that you've always got to have faith, and you've got to believe that things can get better, because we've been in a very bad situation in the past. Don't forget, we battled through 2 world wars and rationing and an existential threat on both occasions from Germany. In the 1970s, the economy was more or less bankrupt, and we recovered. Mrs. Thatcher with an economic, political and societal revolution. I think we can do it again, but time is running out. What do you think, folks? 7:29, can we save Britain? Is it too late? 0344 499 1000. More from Mike Neville next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast 7:30, and we've got a developing story, which is the Bell Hotel in Epping is to no longer house illegal immigrants. Of course, this is after a furious backlash following the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl by one of the residents. So it's very good to see the scaling back of these migrant hotels. But is accommodating illegal immigrants in a community, in a house of multiple occupancy, even worse? Is that out of the frying pan into the fire? Joining me is the former Met detective, the brilliant retired Scotland Yard DCI, Mike Neville. Mike, what do you make of this? It's good to see that the Bell Hotel will become a hotel again, but the alternative seems to be worse, which is a migrant coming to a town near you.
Yeah, absolutely. Near where I live, there's a big hotel which is in a similar situation, and it's good that things have come back where people would use it for weddings and anniversaries and all that. So that's all those important family events. But putting them in these HMOs is you're just throwing them out to the wind, because at least when they're in a hotel, you know where they are. You can sort of keep some control. Is whoever's supposed to be in room 101 there? You can check up. The authorities can find them. These HMOs, they just become lost to the wind. They can do what they want and disappear. So I don't think this is any form of solution. The only solution to this is, until we know that somebody is safe, that somebody is a genuine asylum seeker who needs our help, the only thing we can do is lock them up. And we need a camp. We don't need to take away things like Crowborough Camp, which is also used by a community. We need to build a camp on some offshore island, or put them on ships offshore, so we're not denying any community, any activities, or putting communities at risk offshore, or some remote, unpopulated Scottish island. We build a camp, and they got accommodation there. They've got bed and warm food, and we are doing our duty. That is the solution here, and it could be easily done. All that's missing, Mark, is the will to do it.
Most definitely. And the issue you've got, the government will take plaudits for closing the migrant hotels, accommodating these folk in our communities instead, which is arguably worse, because as you said, with a migrant hotel, at least they're all in one place. Normally there's a bit of security there as well. But the issue you've got ultimately, Mike, is supply. So it doesn't matter what you do with the folk here, if more are coming every day, which they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw, I don't know if you saw the clip on Question Time, where the potential Reform MP for Makersfield clashed with the Green candidate for Makersfield. And she didn't seem to understand that, if you've got 5,000 houses and suddenly 20,000 sets of immigrants arrive, it suddenly impacts it. How does that impact on the community, on the housing needs? And what you have, though, is you have this, as you said at the start, these people belong to a religious cult of left-wingism. They're not interested in the realities of life. They are driven by feelings rather than facts. And the country is a mess because we've been led like that for several decades now, apart from, I think, Mrs. Thatcher, to be honest.
We have some good news in the offing, Mike. A peace deal is likely going to be signed by the US and Iran this weekend or early next week. How do you think history will judge that war?
A complete mess, to be honest. It started for no good reason, really, and it's ended in a mess. I'm only just surprised we haven't had the sort of Saigon moments where people are being shipped out by helicopter. It just seems, I'm disappointed with President Trump. I think a lot of people are disappointed that this has happened. I was speaking to a good friend who was a very senior police officer in America, really Republican voter. He's very disappointed in the president with it. I don't know what has been achieved at all, apart from a lot of mess. A lot of inconvenience, a lot of trade, all that world trade inconvenience, mess stopped in the Straits of Hormuz. And do you know what frightens me, Mark, is that when I was younger, in the 80s, there was all these films like Threads, all about nuclear war in this world and the impact on this country. And they always started off with some attack on Iran or something like that. And it just frightens me. When you start stirring up the nest there, it is not a nest that stays isolated. It impacts on the rest of the world.
Mike, can we talk about the Prime Minister, who I like to refer to these days as nothing to see here, Keir? This is a guy, I believe, that is gaslighting the public about the consequences of mass immigration. And, of course, most egregiously this week, we had an asylum seeker and an attempted murder. Of course, that person has been charged now for attempted murder in Northern Ireland. An innocent man who's lost his eye and may lose his sight in the other eye. The most shocking crime. But unfortunately, every day we read stories like that, Mike. And I just want to ask you whether public anger is justified, because it seems to me that the political and media establishment are telling us to just be quiet, brush this under the carpet, thoughts and prayers, hand-wringing, pearl-clutching, bouquets of flowers. We don't need that, do we? We need change.
Exactly. One thing you did forget is saying a poem. That was really important after the Manchester Arena
Do
thing.
me a favour.
It does make me very sick. It makes me angry.
I've got a poem. I've got a 2-word poem. Bugger off.
But as I said to you, on a personal level, I've seen
Shakespeare, eat your heart out.
My 2 younger daughters live near Bournemouth. Bournemouth has been transformed from a sort of idyllic English seaside town to a place where there are attacks and rapes. They've had to have set up their own security force.
Bournemouth is a war zone now.
It's terrible. There's 3 migrant hotels. There's rapes. It is just wicked. And I have to speak to my young daughters about strange men there. That isn't good at all. The public are right to feel angry. It's wrong to go out and attack the police, throw rocks, a riot and things like that. It's right to peacefully protest and send the message across. But what you have, you're going to get these riots, and the people who stirred this nest is the politicians, because if you continually fail to listen, or not only just fail to listen to the public, if you actually condemn them, if you say anybody who doesn't agree with me is a far-right racist thug, which we saw Starmer do after Southport, you can see how things can be whipped up. Because most people, I looked at the crowd in Southampton, there was like families there and whatever else. They are not far-right thugs. They're just people who are worried. And just to condemn them all, and that's what they've been doing. For 3 decades now, the way to silence people is to say, oh, you're a racist. And most people just cow down and they get on with it. And there's only been few of us speak out. And I say this continually, Mark, that it's only because of stations like Talk that we're allowed to speak about these issues, because for 3 decades they attempted to shut it down.
Most definitely. And that's the issue. When the public say, can we please not have illegal immigrants murdering, harassing and sexually assaulting our people, the response from the establishment and the Prime Minister, nothing to see here, is a simple one. Shut up, racist.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the establishment was personified in Hilary Benn in Parliament when Jim McAllister, the Ulster MP, very veteran Ulster MP, said we don't want these alien cultures, and Hilary Benn sneeringly said, "Oh, I don't understand what an alien culture is." He knows full well what it is.
Disgusting.
Hilary Benn is the establishment slithering around in all its horribleness. His father, at least his father, saw that the EU was a wicked and corrupt organisation. He hasn't even got that on his side, Hilary Benn.
His father had a bit of gumption and some principles, and I think that Hilary Benn, which is a woman's name, by the way, so, sort yourself out, is a political grifter like so many that populate this government. Mike, can we talk about the Pope? I'm raised Roman Catholic, so I'm allowed to tear him a second one this morning.
Right. Well, I was brought up very strong Protestant, actually. Strange. People think they associate that with Northern Ireland and Glasgow and maybe Liverpool, but my grandmother would never have countenanced me marrying a Catholic. So she's passed away now because Mrs. Neville is of the Roman faith. And,
well, there you go.
But I have to say...
Another of her attributes.
The failures of the Church of England, me and my Cromwellian ways, even I feel drawn to at least Rome follow some traditions. But
no, this is it. I mean, can we just quickly go through the checklist of Mrs. Neville's attributes? A brilliant elite-level nurse, a humanitarian, obviously very beautiful, great taste in men, by the way. and now a Roman Catholic. So who cares if the ornaments are gathering dust on your mantelpiece?
Yeah, well, so I could wash the ornaments.
The thing is, Mike, you could get your duster out, couldn't you?
Yeah, I could do. I could dress up as a French maid.
Mike, we need to talk about the Pope, because apparently, in the final days of his week-long tour to Spain, he said that we're all migrants. Actually, it's all peace and love. Your reaction?
It's utter nonsense, isn't it? My name arrived in this country, Neville arrived in this country in 1066. Most people, if they track their ancestry, they'll find themselves, they've been here for 1,000 years at least. And my family have Saxon blood in it as well. You're from the family from Ireland, so the British Isles. So we have these people, the people that we have lived in these nations for thousands and thousands of years. And this nonsense that we're all immigrants, it was tracked back that more people arrived in the Blair years, immigrants arrived in the Blair years, than they did between 1066 and 1950. So this nation of immigrants is just an absolute lie. You know, we might have had 10,000 Huguenots. We had a Jewish community come back after the great Oliver Cromwell allowed them to do so. But these numbers were absolutely handfuls of people. There were not the millions and millions and millions here. And even the Bible says about people being in their own nation. So what gets me with these clerics, whether they're the lunatics in the Church of England, who are the wokest people ever, or the Holy Father here, they obviously don't read their scripture, and they need to do so.
Mike, before we let you go, anti-racism rallies are going to take place in Belfast and Derry as organisers say we will not tolerate race riots. Rallies are going to happen outside Belfast City Hall and in Derry's Guildhall Square. It's a strange reaction, isn't it, from the radical progressive left to go out and hit the streets in the same week that an Irish man is almost murdered.
Well, as we always say, the left never sleep, firstly. And this place, I was in Londonderry as a soldier, that's where I was. But these people, they have their own agenda. You've got this bizarre hypocrisy of Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin, not only were they linked to the IRA, they are very, very left-wing. They're almost communist. And they've got this bizarre situation. People are laughing at them. There's all sorts of things saying, it's Brits out, everybody else in. And so I think...
Well, they're supposed to... Sinn Féin are supposed to be Irish nationalists.
Yeah.
And now they love the open borders. It makes no sense, Michael.
They've always been global communists, in my view.
Right.
Sinn Féin IRA. And what happens here, and what I think, what the good thing of all this, it may be their downfall, because a lot of working class Irish people on both sides of the border have voted for Sinn Féin. And I think this may be the end of them, because immigration is becoming such an issue. And we know what anti-racism means, don't we? We're all against racism. It's a bad thing. But anti-racism often means pick on white people, the diversity, the left-wing version of it, the extreme version of it.
And it's racist towards people of colour, because it's for segregation and judging you by skin colour. So it's actually racist.
It is absolutely, but this is the nonsense of the left, Mark, and I'm afraid, like the Catholic Church 500 years ago, it's an utter religion, and they will not bend net zero, mass migration. It's all part of the cult, and as I said before, they never sleep. They're determined to get it, and we must be as determined as they are to stop them doing it.
Mike, I think you might have to go, because I've heard Mrs. Neville, she's having trouble plugging in the Dyson.
She's actually doing a shift saving people in the hospital. So that's how good she is today.
Oh, well, listen, your lovely missus, we've had a laugh about her this morning. She's a very nice lady, and send her my best wishes. And Mike, you are the boss.
Yeah, I'll let her know.
Yeah, and good luck with that message. Mike, we love having you on the show. You always go down a storm with your background in policing and the military as well. You're literally a double threat, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you, Mike. Have a good weekend. Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector. We know what we need to do with this country. We need controlled immigration. We need to stop the boats. We need cheap energy. We need an economy that lives within its means. We need jobs, and well-paid jobs. We need so much an integrated society rather than parallel communities. We need to make Britain Britain again. We need a multi-ethnic society united around the flag and one set of values. We know what we need, but can we get it? Is it too late to save Britain? 0344 499 1000. Your call's next.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership and a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, there you go. You know what we did, folks? And this is the magic of Talk, is it's live. And can I just tell you that I've been in broadcasting for 25 years, and most of it is fake. All these other networks, these other radio stations, these other TV networks, edited, scripted. The producers have micromanaged the whole thing. The talent, the presenter, is in the pocket of senior management, not here at Talk, where myself, Julia, Kevin, Peter, Alex, Ian, Petri, the list goes on. We can actually get on air and say what we think. And sometimes the microphones are not switched on because it's real, just like life. And the coffee machine's broken, which would explain my erratic mood this morning. Is it too late to save Britain? 7:49. Charlie is in Derbyshire. Hi, Charlie.
Morning, Mark. It's nice to talk to you again. I've been listening to you since 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Charlie. What do you make of our conversation so far?
Well, I don't think we can save ourselves. I mean, because you've got 80 million people here already. By 2050, at 60 at the latest, you'll have 100 million. We'll be in the minority. We'll not be able to feed ourselves. We haven't built a dam since 1991, so we're not having enough water.
We got no reservoirs.
Yeah, we've got nothing, you know.
There's a there's a Lib Dem MP, Charlie, who celebrated in her campaign brochure at the last election that she blocked a reservoir in her constituency. That was like a selling point.
That was her who said she was pansexual, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the lovely Layla Moran.
That's it.
She's one of the pans. I like the pans. Right. I find the pans quite sexy, actually.
Well, you can be what you want for me as long as you don't rub my face in it. You know what I mean?
I don't know what Mrs. Dolan is. I don't know if she's pan.
I were in Merchant Navy for 9 years. I've seen it all, you know.
It's a shambles. It's a joke, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah.
And so listen, I mean, look, you've been around the block a few times. You've got your head screwed on. Is it too late? Can we fix it? I mean, is there any hope at all, Charlie?
I think if reform get in, they'll slow it down, but you can't stop the population growth.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you look at New Zealand, it's about the same size of us, and it's got a population of 5.2 million. And then you look at us, we're up to 80 million already. And unless you stop immigration totally, altogether.
Yeah.
That's the only hope.
Close the door.
That's the only hope the white British people have got. Because we'll be outbred, we'll be outnumbered, and we'll not have a say in his own country. That's the way I see it, you know. It's and I can't believe how many people. Well, a lot of people I talk to, when I talk to them about Talk, they just say, well, I don't listen to the news. I don't listen to it anymore.
I know.
So they're not even aware what's happening in their own country. When you quote some facts to them, some of them are horrified and some just say, well, so what?
Shrug their shoulders.
Pathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't get out and vote and do things, I mean, like, take Northern Ireland. I mean, OK, the government are now saying they're going to do something about immigration in Northern Ireland, and it's took riots to do it. So it's all right going out there protesting, all passive, and
I know.
They just say, oh, they'll get over it. Go out and do a few riots. Jesus Christ, they're going to block social media so nobody can pass messages. It's like communist China.
It feels that way, doesn't it? And after Belfast and after Southampton and Henry Novak, Charlie, we were told just shut up, move on, from the Prime Minister, who I'm calling nothing to see, hear, care.
Yes. And look how quick they put them in prison. I mean, within a couple of weeks, they're already banged up 2 year, 4 months. I mean, what they're going to do to the people in Northern Ireland who they catch? How long are they going to get in prison?
Now, Charlie,
immigrants still walking around free. OK, it's not all on them, but every day you've got rapes and murders. If them people want here, it won't happen.
Charlie,
it's as simple as that.
No one that's entered the country illegally should have freedom.
Oh, no, they should all be in an internment camp. That's what they did in Greece. So if they can do it, why can't we do it?
So you think all that can happen is a figure like Farage would slow things down, but you see our decline as basically irreversible, Charlie?
Yeah, well, we don't make anything, do we? I mean, you suddenly can't start producing and exporting when you're being flooded with crap from China. I mean, to get back on the footing, you'd have to put sky-high tariffs, 500% tariffs, then start making your own stuff. But right now, we ain't got. I mean, my trade is a skilled coded pipe welder. Average age of a skilled coded pipe welder, 55. And, you know, nobody's training them anymore. So, I mean, it's like, look at the NHS. There's only a small percentage are from overseas. And when you think there's 20 million immigrants have come here since 2000, them people that are coming here, they're only really looking after their own. They're not looking after us. Well, they are, like, but they're in the mixing pool. You've got all them people, you need extra doctors. We haven't trained them. We brought them from abroad. And basically, they are only treating their own people, aren't they? That's the way I see it anyway, you know.
And Charlie, what are your emotions when you see the country going down the drain like this? How does it make you feel? Because you're old enough to have seen the change.
Rage. And disgust. So I'm in fields with dogs again there in the woods.
How many dogs have you got, Charlie?
Well, I used to always have 2 springers, but when my last 2 died, because my age, I wasn't going to bother. But then I've got another one now. He's 19 months. He's running around field like a nutter chasing his ball. I've always had black and white, and it gets me out walking and everything. You know, keeps me fit and active.
I think that's good. But you're saying that you feel rage. That is your word, Charlie.
Rage and disgust. I mean, rage and disgust because of what they're doing to us. All these left-wing nutters, they just think we're scum. Angela Rayner said it about the Tory party, but they mean it about us. They just think we're scum and we'll put up with anything. But the sad fact is, for the last 26 years, we've put up with it. And I can't believe people are only just beginning to wake up. Now, my town, we've got quite a few illegal immigrants now. And people are waking up. I mean, we had one story about 3 years ago. It says in paper, the police stopped a car with 4 immigrants in it because they hadn't got the seatbelts on. 3 of them was illegal. And what it said, they took the car off them. What happened to the illegal immigrants? I ain't got a clue.
No, and then they get on the bus. I mean, Charlie, I really value your call, Charlie, because I think you speak for millions. And rage and disgust is something that's going to stay with me. And I'm going to quote you on that in the future, Charlie. And the reason why is because I think it's true. I think it's justified. We all know that you don't break the law, that violence is wrong. But rage and disgust are not just understandable, but I would argue important, because without that, there's no change. Charlie, may God bless you and your 18-month Springer, and we'll catch up soon. I love a Springer. Did you know that my producer, Dean Spencer, apparently has a Springer? Damon is in Wigan. Hi, Damon.
Hello, Mark. How you doing? All right?
Top of the morning, big man. Listen, Charlie's not happy. He doesn't think we can save Britain now. Damage is done. What do you reckon?
Well, speaking as a former veteran who served during the 1990s under John Major, I think over the last 30 years you can see just how far this country has slipped down the chain in virtually every aspect. I think the left, personally, and they want to call me far right, that's fine by me. I mean, I see the world as it is. I see the common sense of what's going on. But I think the left, the establishment, the governments, they just do not hide their own agendas nowadays. They want to completely ruin Britain. They will completely ruin Britain because they're so powerful they can get away with it. I've got family members who are civil servants who have told me straight, if Farage gets in, or any party they don't agree with, they will down tools and just not do nothing. It's impossible to push anything through when you've got so many people pushing back. But they don't even hide it anymore. They're just saying, you're not worth it, we're not interested, we'll do what we want, and that's the end of it. And as a veteran, and thanking Talk for the way that you speak about veterans and the way you stand up for veterans, I just think the world, especially Britain, has just gone down the tubes. We have Pride Month, Black History lessons, we have Veterans Day, one day for veterans, but everybody else seems to get notified and noticed a lot more than the British people, ordinary British people, or uncut Brits, because the elite are just too powerful now, and I just do not think there's any way back. Nobody has got the will to stop it. Thatcher days have gone. Them days will never return, and it's a frightening time for this country.
A damning verdict. Damon, thank you for your words of passion. Again, what you've said is going to register massively with those watching and those listening, with Damon pointing out that there's one day for veterans and there's a whole month for Pride. What is Pride? It's fine, no problem, whatever. Do your thing, but you're celebrating who you sleep with, right? You get a month of that, or here's who I like sleeping with. I don't care who you sleep with. And meanwhile, the veterans, without whom we wouldn't be here, get a day. Make it make sense. Is it too late to save Britain? More to come. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two minutes past 8. Top of the morning, happy Saturday one and all. Mark Dolan on Talk Breakfast. A big show for you this morning. Breaking as we come on air, the Prime Minister strikes back, blasting critics with a clear message. I'm here to stay. But can the beleaguered Premier turn things around, or is he now the captain of a sinking ship? Meanwhile, the Pope, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, says we're all migrants. Is he right? And the Bell Hotel in Epping will no longer house illegal immigrants. They are shutting down the migrant hotels. But is accommodating illegals in our communities even worse? 0344 499 1000. And the BBC blast Brexit, saying that the economics of it are settled, that we've damaged the economy. Is that true? As we approach the 10-year anniversary of the referendum, are we better off out? And this morning's big conversation, we know what needs to happen in the country. We need cheap energy, we need industrial output, we need jobs, we need houses and reservoirs and roads and rail. We need infrastructure. We need to fix those potholes. We need an economy that lives within its means. We need a business-friendly environment so we can have economic growth. There's all these things we need. Stop the boats. A multi-ethnic society united around British values. Those are the things we need. But is it too late? Is it too late to save Britain? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. Now, you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show, because this is a TV show now as well. And I'm delighted to say that Luke number 2, or is he number 1? Of course, he's always number 1, is directing our TV output. And Kira is taking your calls. Is it too late to save Britain? Let's kick off, if we can, David, with a voice note on that. Oh, there you go. That was a little blast, wasn't it? Let's take a quick voice note before we get to my star guest. Is it too late to save Britain? Here is Bob.
Hello, Mark. Bob in Thetford here. The only person what can save what should have saved this country is Enoch Powell. He wouldn't have stood for all this rubbish. That's ridiculous. Us beyond saving there. How can we save it when there's all them millions of foreigners here? Take bloody, we ain't even got the transport to take them back again. Lovely programme. Bye.
OK, thank you for that, Bob, and thank you for the kind words. How about this from Perry?
Morning, Mark. I don't think it's too late to save the country yet, but I certainly think it will be if we go past 2029 and we don't have a change. For me, you know, I believe Theresa May, no deal is better than a bad deal. Then I believed Boris Johnson, I'm going to build 40 new hospitals, I'm going to cut immigration, which was another lie. Then I believed Rishi Sunak. I had high hopes for Rishi Sunak because I thought, well, at least he ain't doing it for the money like the rest of them, because the guy was a multi-millionaire. I'm going to stop the votes, which was a lie. You know, Keir Starmer kept coming along promising the world, which is all a lie. You know, Kemi Badenoch, she gives a very good talk, but again, I just don't believe her anymore. I don't believe the Conservatives anymore. Because Kemi Badenoch may be standing there and she's giving a good talk, and all her nodding Lib Dem pretend Conservatives sitting behind her are all nodding along going, yay, 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 when really they're all thinking underneath their breath thinking, no, my dead body, will she do that? You know, they're just liars. Get enough of that. I'm going to vote for someone different this time.
Perry, thank you for your very, very articulate voice note. And I think that is the problem. You touched on the Tories. Kemi talks a good game, a very impressive politician and person. But those people sat behind her don't want to leave the ECHR, don't want cheap energy, and don't want a multi-ethnic society united around British values. Those are the things we need. Is it too late to save Britain? Let's get the views of Ben Habib, chairman of the Great British PAC. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Mark.
It's very good to see you. This is our conversation this morning. I think we know, don't we? Of course, there's a long list of things that need to happen, and you've propounded those arguments very well as the leader and founder of Advance UK. You're now the chairman of the Great British PAC. What do you think? Is it too late?
It's not too late, but the measures required to be taken in order to save the United Kingdom become ever more radical and more demanding and less and more painful as time passes and we, our governing class failed to do the right thing. It would have been very, very easy to save the United Kingdom 20 years ago when Cameron came into power, 16 years ago when he came into power in 2010. It would have been very, very easy for him to reverse the foundations of the building blocks that Blair put in place and which have basically been the cause of the damage that we're now experiencing. But he didn't do it. And now we're going to need even more radical measures than just reversing Tony Blair's constitutional changes. We're going to need to do some very positive things, radical, not extreme, reversing the extremes of the past. But they become ever more demandingly radical the longer this nonsense continues, if that makes sense.
Yes, and it seems it does make perfect sense, Ben, but it seems that it all hinges on the next election and the outcome therein. Probably 2029, because turkeys don't vote for Christmas. If we get another Labour government or a left-wing coalition in 3 years' time, well, then that'll be almost a decade of left-wing policies, at which point, surely that's the point of no return.
Yeah, so it's not just a fear of getting another left-wing government, which, of course, is a completely legitimate fear, and the way you expressed it is right. But what we also don't want, as Perry, I think, so brilliantly put it, is another bunch of liars running the country who've told us that they're going to save it and then do what Theresa May did, what Cameron did, what Theresa May did, what Boris Johnson did, what Sunak did. We want people who are going to actually deliver for the country, who have the ideas required to get to the root causes of the problems we face, and then have the brain power to find the solutions, and then the fortitude to stand their ground and deliver those solutions. So it's not just good enough to get rid of Labour, the Liberal Democrats, the SNP, the Greens, and all the nutcases on the left. But we've got to make sure that we have a government that's capable of doing what's needed, because it would be equally bad if we got another Boris Johnson. Arguably, I think it could be worse, because if you get someone like Farage, in whom I don't have any faith to save the country, what would then happen is that not only would he damage the country during his period of governance, people would look at Nigel Farage, the left would look at Nigel Farage, and they would argue with the right and say, look, you had your nationalist prime minister, you had the guy who wears union flag socks, you had the guy who beat the drum for Brexit, and he failed. He was just as bad as Boris Johnson. And therefore, your narrative simply does not work. Your ideology, your political philosophy, this desire for a sovereign, prosperous, independent United Kingdom just doesn't work. And we better get back into the EU. We better take our borders down completely and completely give up on the United Kingdom. And I fear that as much as I fear a left-wing government. And so what we've got to do on the right-hand side of British politics between now and 2029 is make sure that we have the debates required to be had in order to identify the solutions to which I've been referring, and make sure we get the right people coming forward to form a government. Not just a mishmash of past failures and, a full tilt towards trying to get control, but getting control with serious principled politics, serious philosophy behind it, and the wherewithal to save our country.
Well, save our country is what we must do, Ben. And following Southampton and the egregious murder of Henry Novak and, of course, Northern Ireland, Belfast on Monday, we've had obfuscation, hand-wringing and thoughts and prayers from the Prime Minister. Nothing to see here, Keir. Well, I took a call earlier from one of our listeners, Ben, and I asked what his emotions were about the direction of the country. And the two words he used were rage and disgust. Now, we can both condemn violence and breaking the law, but is rage and disgust not just acceptable, but perhaps necessary?
Well, it's inevitable. It's certainly inevitable. If the political class doesn't get ahead of this problem, and it's steadfastly refused to do it so far, it keeps encouraging the problem, in fact. If it refuses to deal with the problem that we're experiencing, which effectively is mass migration, the setting aside of British culture, the setting aside of what it means to be British, the setting aside, therefore, of our country, if they refuse to get a grip of that problem, then it is inevitable that you will see more Southport kind of riots. You will see more Southampton riots. You will see more of what happened in Belfast. It is inevitable. And there is no point the government then pointing the finger at these people, perfectly law-abiding people otherwise, and saying, classing them as far right, castigating them, and then vilifying them for expressing their absolute exasperation at the state of the country. Their families are threatened. People are being killed by people who shouldn't be in this country. Women and children are being raped by people who shouldn't be in this country. And it may be offensive for people to listen to the language that I'm using at the moment at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. But that is what is happening in the United Kingdom, perpetrated by people who shouldn't be in this country. So there's no point looking at the protesters and saying, you shouldn't be protesting, you shouldn't be getting angry, rage is not justified. It is inevitable. It is the natural human response to abuse, if that abuse is leveled again and again and again. And I know there's an anti-racism protest or march or whatever taking place in Belfast. Let's be very clear about what that march means. The anti-racism march in Belfast today is effectively sending a message that mass migration is fine, that not having borders is fine, that we should take in millions of people from antithetical cultures, some of them barbarians, into the bosom of the United Kingdom, and we should allow them to set aside our own people. We should allow them to abuse our own people. That's what that anti-racism march effectively amounts to. And we should denounce that anti-racism march. Of course, I denounce violence. Of course, I denounce violence. No one wants violence. I want a peaceful solution to the country's problems. But it becomes more and more difficult to deliver a peaceful solution the longer the government doesn't get a grip of the problem.
That is correct. And I just wonder, Ben, whether with this so-called anti-racism march in Belfast today, there are echoes of the radical left's response to October the 7th, the single worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust in Israel at a music festival, over 1,000 innocent people dead. And the progressive left take to the streets in our cities under the banner of pro-Palestine. There are strong parallels there, aren't there?
There are absolutely strong parallels, and they're all fundamentally anti-British. They're all anti this country. They're all anti the interests of British people. That's what these marches are. They're basically putting up a sign saying, we want this country to take the knee to antithetical cultures from abroad. We want to set aside our great history, our great culture, our great people. That's what these marches are. These are marches preaching suicide at a national level. That's what these marches are. And we mustn't misunderstand them. They call themselves anti-racist. No, they're promoting racism against the people of the United Kingdom. They're inviting the people of from abroad to come in and capture our country. That is what it's taking. I know this sounds inflammatory, what I'm saying, but that is what these marches are doing.
Well, folks, we've got a simple question for you this morning. Is it too late to save Britain? Ben Habib is one of the most forthright and fearless political commentators in the country. He can't be cancelled. He won't be cancelled, and he's taking your calls next. 0344 499 1000. Is it too late to save Britain?
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Talk Breakfast, 8:20. Is it too late to save Britain? Caroline is in the capital. Good morning, Caroline. You're live with Ben Habib.
Oh, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Ben.
Hi,
Thank you
Caroline.
so much for taking my call.
Thank
Right.
you.
I've got a few points. I personally think, and I don't know how we do this, there is only one way to get past this. The British people have to go on strike. And what I mean by that is the only tax that people can stop paying is the council tax, but it needs to be done in millions. Money talks. The government aren't listening. They won't be listening. And I'm really scared. I can't even rent my house out to leave the country because of what they've done with the Renters' Rights Reform Bill. We're all stuck here. People can't get jobs. And not only that, we're fighting the left. And the left is so dangerous. And it's just getting worse by the day. And I can't see a way out. I don't see how it's going to happen. I don't trust the voting system. I think it's rigged. I actually think it's rigged. And it's terrifying.
we have family voting, documentary proof that that's happening, with some families going into the booth with dad telling mum, brother and sister how to vote.
Exactly. That's
Plus, I'm not happy about the postal ballots one bit.
Exactly. So what can we do? I feel like we're just sitting ducks here. And I also don't think enough of the country is aware of what's going on. They're either ignoring it, they're either watching the mainstream media, not listening to talk, not reading proper investigative journalism online. And it's absolutely terrifying.
They're asleep. If people were awake to what was happening, then there would be overnight change, wouldn't there, Caroline?
Yes, and I don't see how we can win if more than half the country doesn't know what's going on. And it is terrifying. My mum is a Holocaust survivor, and if I'm honest, I feel like I'm in trauma. I feel like it's happening all over again, not just with the Jewish people, with the British people. And I can't see a way out. And everything Ben you've said is absolutely right. But you're in a different position to the average British citizen who is really, really doesn't know what to do.
And Caroline, you sound to me like you wouldn't be a person that is automatically on the right politically.
No, I am. I mean, I totally support Rupert and Ben, but my worry about the right, if they're split, how are we going to win the next election? How are we going to win it? That is the problem. I understand what's happened with Rupert and Nigel. I get it. But the bigger picture, who's going to suffer? The British people in the country.
So I think
that's the point.
Okay.
I mean, can I just say a couple of things?
All
Caroline?
yours, Ben.
First, yeah. So I completely agree, Caroline. We're almost being held hostage in our own country. Foreigners who come to this country and are committing the crimes that they're committing against British people, they can actually go home. They can be deported. People regard deportation as something extreme. It's not. It's just sending people home. But the abuse that we're suffering is relentless because we've got nowhere else to go. And we are held hostage in our own country. It's such a powerful point you made. And I just wanted to re-emphasize it. The other point I think you made, Caroline, which I understand the fear of, is the splitting of the vote on the right. So, for example, I've just set aside Advance UK to allow the clarity that's required on the so-called right-hand side of British politics to take place. Part of creating that clarity is making sure someone like Rupert Lowe knocks the 9 bells out of Nigel Farage and Reform, because Reform is not the answer. Reform hasn't thought things through. I can tell you that with absolute certainty. I've looked very carefully at the way Reform has evolved over the last 2 or 3 years, and it is a basket case of policies and people. It needs the 9 bells knocked out of it. The persona of Farage, the persona of Reform is all about country first, sovereignty, we'll get it all back. But the reality is far from it. So we need this fight between, I thought Advance would do it, Restore Britain is now going to do it, and Farage. But then when it comes to 2028, when we've established what the solutions are, when we've had this fight, we've debated it, and we've got to those solutions, then Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, if he's still in position, and indeed Kemi Badenoch, if she's at the table, have to be grown up, and they've got to sit round a table and make sure they get a thumping majority one way or another on a collective ticket which delivers this country back to safety. And there will be no greater proponent for that taking place than myself. We will put lots and lots of pressure on people to make sure that that happens.
This is extraordinary. At 8:25 in the morning, we have breaking news that a leading figure on the political right, Ben Habib, on the record on Talk Breakfast, announcing a deal can be done to unite the right. To unite Habib, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage. A deal can be done with the Tories. And not just a deal can be done, but as Ben Habib says, a deal must be done, Ben.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's the Tories, Reform, Restore, whatever. We've got to fight this out between ourselves right now, and then whoever's standing.
So you're in a mood. You're in a mood to hammer out a deal with Nigel, Rupert, and Kemi.
No, I'm in a mood to have a fight with all of them, a debate with all of them.
As a precursor to a deal.
As a precursor to determining who has the solutions, who then carries the argument, and making sure that whoever's carrying the argument delivers this government, comes into government and delivers this country to safety. And if that means that people who right now are knocking the 9 bells out of each other need to sit round a table and do something, they better sit round a blooming table and do it. They better blooming do it.
Well, that could be an historic moment in the national conversation, live on Talk Breakfast, that Ben Habib is outlining a plan for the right to have a battle of ideas, to knock 7 bells out of each other, and then...
Not 9. Was it 9?
Was it 9? My mathematics, I'm afraid. I was trained in maths by Diane Abbott. But it's a very interesting thought. Caroline, what do you make of that? An almighty ideological battle on the right, and then a deal.
Do you know what? I would pray for that every single day. And I hear you, Ben, and I believe every word you're saying, but is it going to happen? Is it really going to happen? Because every single day, we are suffering every day, whatever it is, with taxes, with council tax, with parking, with driving, everything. I mean, it doesn't stop, and it's becoming intolerable. And financially, people are breaking, and people are going to lose their homes the more they put the council tax up, the taxes up, and we're running out of time.
And rich people, Caroline, rich people are leaving the country. So Caroline and Ben, 1 out of 6 people on the Sunday Times Rich List of 2024 have left the country. These are dark times. 16,000 millionaires projected to leave the UK this year alone. Caroline, that doesn't end well. Can I ask you, though, Caroline, I'm a bit concerned about your idea of not paying the taxes, and I'll tell you for why. Could the left not do the same thing if a figure like Farage wins?
I can't really answer that right now.
Is that not a worry? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm very persuaded by your argument, and I can understand why you're making it. I'm just worried whether this could backfire and the left could do the same thing.
Well, that's a possibility. But right now, literally right now, we have to do something, because every day it's getting harder and harder. We haven't got a year, 6 months, another 2.5 years. We won't have a country left. We don't even have a country now. A country without borders isn't a country.
In Caroline's defence on that proposal, I actually think that the British people, the vast majority of British people, want what I've just described in a pro-British government. They want it. And I don't think the left will be able to marshal their so-called supporters to do anything. Remember, Keir Starmer's majority was won on fewer votes than he had in 2019. They're polling 17%. The Greens are complete bloomin' lunatics. The country realises it needs borders. The country realises that regulations must be eased. They realise net zero is killing us. They realise that we've got to reduce taxes on the working and middle classes, that the welfare bill has to be reduced so that people who are working are given the opportunity to make money and improve their lives and so on. Everyone realises that. This is a moment in history, a bit like 1979, where someone like I'm not an apologist for Margaret Thatcher, but someone great, a statesman, needs to come forward and marshal these arguments, which is why I'm talking about having this debate with the British people, get that thumping majority, and then deliver on the ticket which they have been delivered into office on. That's what has to happen. And I don't think the left will be able to marshal anyone against that, because the working class will be behind that agenda. The working and middle classes in this country will be behind that agenda firmly.
I want to ask you, Caroline, I really appreciate your call, and please call me again soon, because I think what you've said there is a very important part of the conversation. Caroline can't even rent out her home in order to get out of this country. So bad is the situation in the housing market. Who do you see as a potential leader of a more satisfactory right-wing coalition, Ben? Is it Kemi? Is it you? Is it Rupert? Is it Nigel?
I'm not going to venture an opinion. All of us
You're
are
such
human.
a politician these days, Ben.
Well, it's all of us are human. All of us have our frailties.
Most of us.
All of us have our weaknesses. But what I think we do need is a collective team of Samsons. It's got to be a team of great people, so that where one person has a weakness, it's made up for by someone else. And there can be a figurehead. There's got to be that one great statesman. And, where that person comes from, Farage could become it. He could become it if he could just develop a political philosophy and stick by it.
I mean, is it so wrong that he's proposing scrapping benefits for people from overseas, that he's going to detain folk that enter the country illegally, that he's on record as saying he'll stop the boats in a fortnight, if not sooner?
Some of what he says makes sense.
Those are all great policies.
Yeah, but when you look at the trajectory of where he's come from 2 years ago, literally 2 years ago, he was saying the deportation of all illegal migrants is possible. Impossible. You can't do it, and he has no ambition to do it. That's what he said in November 2024.
Well, he was probably right then, wasn't he? That was politically unpalatable then, and it's not now. He was just being a realist, Ben.
No, he wasn't being a leader. He was being a follower, and we need a leader. We need someone who knows what needs to be done and isn't fearful of saying it. And then when he came out with his mass deportation policy, he said, we'll leave the ECHR in Great Britain, but we won't leave it in Northern Ireland. And that because of the Good Friday Agreement. And that means, under his own mass deportation policy, every single illegal migrant in the United Kingdom would go straight to Northern Ireland. And we've just seen what happened in Belfast. That is currently Reform's policy on the ECHR, to remove the ECHR from Great Britain, i.e. from England, Scotland and Wales, but not to remove it from Northern Ireland, which would just create a disaster for this country. That is their current policy. They haven't thought things through. And I can give you many, many examples of a similar nature where they haven't thought things through. And so we do need this debate. Sorry, I keep going back to it. But we do need this debate, and we need people to come forward with the right answers. And then we need a team of Samsons to deliver this country to safety, with a statesman who is resolute and will not bend at the front of that team.
I wonder if that's Ben Habib. Ben, we love having you on the show. It's always a great privilege, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us on this Saturday morning, I should say, and the important conversation that we're having. My thanks to Ben Habib, chairman of the Great British PAC. Ben, have an excellent Saturday. We will speak soon. Rage and disgust is how one of my callers feels about the direction of the country. Can we save Britain? Save Britain, put my voice back into gear. More calls, more of your voice notes, and a big name in journalism next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, and I've got a simple question for you this morning. Is it too late to save Britain? Here's a cheeky voice note from a good friend of the show. This is Boz. Take a listen.
Travelling Boz here. Question of the day. Is it too late? Well, the thing is, it's nearly 2 years in with this Labour government. A captain at the head of the table who, you're right, he's on the Titanic. It's a ghost ship because the rest around him are absolutely useless. He seems to not see everything that's in front of him. Problems with immigration. Everything, it just, I can't explain it, but it's all in front of him. And every day there's something else. People resign on him and tell him, write him letters. And then he comes out with, well, yeah, I'm here to stay. I'm in it for the long run. Listen, another 3 years is going to be absolutely burnt, scorched earth policy. And if Nigel comes in by then, it's going to take him 10 years to clear it up. But it's got to start now. And if you've got Starmachov there who is taking no notice of everything he's being told by the public, he's surrounded by buffoons.
Well, first of all, a brilliant voice note, Boz, and an excellent Sir Keir Starmer impersonation. I don't think it's going to be of much value in a couple of months' time because I expect he won't be Prime Minister at this stage. Maybe he'll go back to being a lawyer. You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Is it too late to save Britain? Joining the conversation is the brilliant Express journalist, James Walker. Good morning, James.
Mark, great to see you as ever.
Listen, great to have you in the studio. Your first time, first of many appearances, no doubt. And, well...
We'll see, Mark, we'll see.
Bit of a... It's already... It's a done deal. A big developing story, breaking news on this show. Ben Habib, a significant voice on the right, who
Yeah.
I think is appreciated by a lot of your readers at The Express. He thinks a deal can be hammered out on the right between Rupert Lowe, Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. Your reaction?
I'm not convinced, Mark, to be honest. Those three hate each other to the nth degree. There's no love lost there between Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage. I mean, you met Nigel Farage yesterday. He had something to say about Rupert Lowe, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is no love lost. They're not on speaking terms.
No.
And certainly Rupert in particular is still furious with how he feels he's been treated by Reform. Ben Habib, an arch critic of Farage. Meanwhile, Kemi and Nigel don't get on.
No.
It's an open secret in Westminster, isn't it?
Yeah, they've been slating each other back and forth, right? And to be honest, why would Reform do a deal with the Tories? In the Makerfield by-election, they're set to get 2% of the vote, Mark. 2%. They'll barely get their
As it
deposit
comes to
back.
this, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, whereas Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's party, are on 4 times that, 8% of the vote they're supposed to be getting in Makerfield by-election. That will keep Reform out of office, though. They won't win that by-election as it stands, looking at the latest
Really?
polls.
Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah,
It
well,
goes
this
to
is
Labour.
on front page of the Times today, right? Labour are 5 points ahead of Reform. Restore Britain again on 8%. So basically, Restore Britain will keep Reform out.
So does your political judgment tell you that actually at the next election a smaller party like Restore will fall away and the public will think, well, this time we're choosing a government and therefore they back Farage if they're on the right? Is that what's likely to happen?
Well, potentially, but Mark, these things can go both ways, right? Maybe Restore do really well in this Makerfield by-election and some people think, well, you know, Reform seem to have given up the ghost of it, don't they? They seem to have lost a bit of energy. They seem to have lost a bit of their original verve, their sort of, you know, their proper right-wing steel.
Especially with ex-Tories turning up in their
Nadine
ranks.
Zahawi turning up in the ranks, Nadine Dorries, the sort of yesterday's people. I think a lot of people are getting a bit sick of Reform at the minute. They feel like they've lost a lot of that energy, and Restore is there. And if they do really well in this by-election, maybe people will have a think and say, well, maybe Rupert Lowe's my man. Right?
How interesting. I mean, where are your readers at The Express? Where are they at the moment about the direction of the country? What's the mood music?
It's very interesting, Mark. It's 50-50 among Express readers. You get the sort of die-hard Nigel Farage loyalists who sort of say, look, he delivered Brexit, he's the man of the moment, he's a legend. I mean, he is a legend, Mark, right? You met him yesterday. He's a great guy.
And more on that in the weeks ahead, of course. So we're sitting on some very big stories, aren't we?
We are indeed. But then the other half say, look, Reform have gone soft. They've let all these Tories in. They're trying to become more establishment-friendly. They're trying to sort of look good to the mainstream media, etc., etc. They've lost their way. Rupert Lowe's the man of the future, they say. You know, he's sensible. He's also quite tough on migration. And obviously, with all the scenes we've seen in Belfast this week, we're talking about, you know, is Britain finished? Well, if you look at the scenes in Belfast, you look at the scenes in Southampton, it's not looking good, is it, Mark?
No. What do Southampton and Belfast tell us about the state of the country? Because I took a call earlier, I don't know if you heard it, and it was a chap that said that his emotions are rage and disgust. Now, no one is saying break the law. No one is saying set fire to a car or a house or throw stones. But rage and disgust seems to be a presiding emotion. What does Belfast and what about Southampton, what do they say about the state of the country?
They say that the establishment has lost control. Britain is on the brink. And frankly, you know, we all feel enough is enough. This country's on the edge. No one's had control over migration for 2 decades. You know, ever since Tony Blair opened the borders in the mid-noughties and said, come one and all. You know, all please come
Let's
to the
rub
country.
their faces in diversity.
Let's rub their faces in diversity. Let's, you know, and then under Boris, non-EU migration goes through the roof, Mark. Tons of people come into this country from outside the West.
2.6 million.
Yes, and they fail to assimilate. You only have to go across the river from these studios to Whitechapel, say. There's a huge failure of integration in huge sections of this country, in huge areas of this country. People just aren't assimilating into Britain. And we can all see it. Right? We can all see this happening in front of our eyes, our country changing, and they wonder why people are mad. Well, if you ask Keir Starmer, he would say Elon Musk is to blame, right? Twitter's to blame, Rupert Lowe is to blame, Nigel Farage is to blame, he would say, for saying stuff like people should feel pure, cold rage. Well, I asked Mark, why shouldn't people feel pure, cold rage? They've seen their country change drastically over their lifetime. Every week now, it seems we're getting a story in the papers on TV saying such and such person who's come into the country after filling out a 2-page questionnaire has then gone on to do something awful, murder, rape, you name it, theft. Could be
Yeah,
anything.
this person doesn't even have a face-to-face meeting with an official and they stay in the country.
Well, I do think reforms, Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman have big questions to answer there. This change was made, this fast-track scheme was made under their watch at the Home Office. Why? Why did they think it was a good idea to say, no, all these people coming in from places like Africa, the Middle East, shouldn't be questioned when they arrive in the UK by an official. They should just fill out a 2-page questionnaire and then, yep, rubber stamp, come on through.
And of course, this is how politicians and administrators tackle a backlog, which is just to stamp yes on the passport. That is not tackling a backlog, is it? We've seen the same in the NHS, with Wes Streeting winning great plaudits for reducing that waiting list. It's because he's taken names off the waiting list. You're probably too young to know about Tipex. You familiar with Tipex?
Mark, I'm not that young, mate. Take a look at me. I
You're
had
very well.
Tipex.
Is that right? Did you have
I used it very liberally, Mark, on my exams, I tell you that.
I had a Tipex habit. And you were just like, you know, this is what he's done. He's gone and he's basically just used, he's just painted out the names on the waiting list. But it's very, very damning. On the brink is your language. Would you go that far?
I do think Britain is on the brink of just sectarian violence, Mark. There's been a huge failure to integrate millions of people who've come into this country. And now we're seeing awful scenes. And like you say, the scenes in Belfast, no one here supports that. Me and you don't support those kind of scenes, like migrants' houses being deliberately targeted. But it's awful. No one wants to see this stuff because there's plenty of innocent people caught in the crossfire. It's not on. It's not on. We don't want to see this. We want to see this country go back to a sense of normality.
Well, I mean, tell me if I'm gone crazy, but I think where we're at with the UK is that we have a multi-ethnic society, and that's not going to change.
It shouldn't.
And that can be a tremendous success, such as the United States is a multi-ethnic society. But I think it's widely agreed that it's a multi-ethnic society united around American values and the flag.
Yes.
And that's what the UK has failed to do.
Completely.
We've had a multicultural society which has no expectation of integration, and that's the problem.
Exactly, Mark, exactly. Like you say, America's an amazing example. In Trump's America, frankly, in Obama's America, if you're a Latino coming over the border from Mexico, they came and they wanted to integrate.
Yeah,
they love the American dream.
I'm going to be American now.
Yeah, you talk to anyone, someone from Latin heritage in America, they love the country. They love America. You know, they'll be the first to stand up and sing the Star-Spangled Banner. You know, they're probably more patriotic than some of the liberals in New York and California, frankly. That's a sign of good integration. When you go to places like Whitechapel, Bradford, is that good integration?
Parallel communities. And I know Donald talks about Sharia law in Britain's cities. Well, Sharia law is certainly something that is propagated in our communities, whether or not upheld and has primacy over British law. But there's certainly a conversation to be had there. We had a young woman in East London in a Muslim community who was not allowed to do a fun run because she was female and 14. And that's illegal, wrong, and I think represents the story. Well, look, folks, it's a simple question today. Is it too late to save Britain? Here's a cheeky voice note from, when you're ready, David, Pauline.
Good morning, Mark. Pauline from Salford. Is it too late to save us? Whilst the Labour government are in, yes, it is. But I just cannot believe that he cannot see how much they have divided this country, absolutely, totally divided this country. And I can honestly see trouble come the summer, come the nice months. And nobody wants to see violence, but they're not listening. They're just not listening. So I actually can't blame people for lashing out. I mean, I'll be honest, this weekend I have got a huge privet and I am going to deck it out in Union Jacks and a Union Jack flag because I'm British, I'm proud to be British and I'm going to carry on being proud to be British, but we have got to get this government out. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Pauline, thank you. I loved your voice note. Please send me more. In fact, I want all of you to contact me. I've got a full switchboard, thanks to our brand new assistant producer, the excellent Kira. And so we're taking your calls in the company of the associate editor of the Daily Express. Next, is it too late to save Britain? 8:47 Talk Breakfast.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
8:49 Talk Breakfast. Is it too late to save Britain? James Walker is with us, Associate Editor of the Daily Express. Are you enjoying your first time on this network?
Mark, I was bricking it before I came in here, but it's been great, hasn't it? It's been good
Listen,
fun.
you are owning it, because I think what's great about the Express, it's a paper that understands its readers. You know your audience, don't you?
We do. We really do know our audience. And, I mean, this story you had, great exclusive about uniting the right. I think that'll go down a storm with them. They'll be very interested in that.
Well, that's right. So Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe, Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage, they are fighting, are they not, like rats in a sack?
Oh, they're out for blood.
And does that help the country?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because when we don't unite on the right, we see what we saw on the left with Corbyn, right? Factionalism, division, infighting, media storms, embarrassment and a failure to get control over the system. The right does need to unite, but I don't think the Tories should be involved in any way whatsoever. My personal opinion, not the opinion.
Well, that's interesting. Is it a case of, like, a lot of people feel they like Kemi but do not trust the Tories as far as they could throw them? Is that the thought?
And why should they? I mean, why should they? When you look at net migration under Boris, it skyrocketed, right? We saw a net migration of 1 million one year under Boris, and this is all coming from outside the EU as well. So we have a tougher problem with assimilation. That was under his watch, and he promised, he said, you know, we're going to do Brexit and we're going to get that number right down. Well, I mean, look what happened, and then, unsurprisingly, they got kicked out.
Well, 1 million immigration net in a year, that's more than in a century in the history of this country. Let that sink in. Let me tell you that you've melted the switchboard. And we're going to start with Stephen in Belfast. Good morning, Stephen. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. Lovely to have you with us, sir.
Good morning, Mark.
Now, listen, a few things to ask you. First of all, Stephen, a few days on from what happened on Monday, that horrific attack, what are the emotions of people in Belfast? What is the mood, Stephen, right now?
Well, obviously it's calmed down last night a bit, but in general, people have been really disgusted with what's been going on with the illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants coming in to the UK, and people have just had enough now. What happened on Monday night was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, and people reacted. Now, there's people from all different, the political elites, I would call them, who are calling out people for reacting to what happened on Monday night by saying that they're just thugs and vandals. But so what do they do all the rest of the year? You know, they're not. They're people that's angry and had enough.
Stephen, there's a handful of people, a minority, who committed violence and broke the law. We can both agree, Stephen, that is deeply wrong. The majority of people in Northern Ireland demonstrating angry and upset are not breaking the law. What they're seeing is well, what is it? Is it fear, anger? What is it?
Yep. It's all that. But I mean, they have tried everything. I mean, majority of people are peaceful all of the time. Some people just react more than others do. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's just people have had enough, and if they think that they can keep importing, and I'm going to use the phrase illegal aliens. People are not going to put up with it, especially in Northern Ireland.
Well, illegal alien is a perfectly administrative term used, for example, by the American authorities.
Yeah, exactly. But what really annoys me the most about it at the minute, in particular, is all these MPs who are so far away from reality. I look at half of them and go, there must be more brains than a false face. than most of them, to be honest. Because the reasoning behind these things just beyond my comprehension. So it is. But in particular, at the minute, the Sinn Féin Minister, Michelle O'Neill, calling out for diversity and inclusion before calling out the horrific attack on Stephen Ogilvie on Monday evening. She and her party want to bend over backwards and to see more potential voters.
I mean, it's interesting. Michelle O'Neill said, your First Minister, said that she was calling these protesters racist. What did you think of that when you heard that?
Well, of course, sure, that's the phrase they use for everything.
It is, isn't it?
Know? So it is. But, I mean, her party alone, her party's slogan used to be the Armulating ballot box. So that should be a wake-up call in itself. Get people in the UK to look at what happened in Belfast over the 30 years of the Troubles, where they thought that they could still shoot and bomb people and get people in the office, which is what they're now doing in the UK with, I'm not going to say Muslim, I'm going to say Islamic voters are starting to get in where they can change the laws and stuff like that.
Sectarian politics, which you can tell us, Stephen, is not the way to go as a man in Belfast.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm 59-year-old, disabled, and I get a lot of time at the minute because I'm not able to work to watch the news and television.
Yeah.
And it beguiles me what's going on around the whole of the UK and why they're letting all these people come in with no documentation whatsoever. And then all these horrific attacks are taking place. So they are.
Stephen, I've only got a couple of seconds. Can I ask you why this is happening? Why are the authorities asleep at the wheel and the politicians? Why are we getting the boat crossings? Why isn't it stopping, do you think?
I think European laws have got a lot to do with it, which is something we don't and didn't vote for. We're supposed to be governed by our own people, our own leaders, but they're absent. They're empty suits is a word I would coin for them.
Stephen, an incredible call. I'm so glad you've joined us, and please call me again soon. And my best wishes to you and the people of Belfast in what has been a truly awful week, but potentially, James, a wake-up call for Northern Ireland and the UK.
I don't think our politicians are sentient enough to be woken up, Mark. Like Stephen rightly says, they are empty suits.
Wow.
All these people in Westminster, reform and restore, I would say, put them aside. I'm not talking about them. But the Tories and Labour, they're careerists. They're career politicians. They get out of university, they go be a bag carrier for a politician, and their one dream in life is to be Prime Minister. If you ask them why, they won't be able to tell you. If you ask Andy Burnham in this studio now, why do you want to be Prime Minister? What do you want to fix? He wouldn't have the first clue. This is not going to be a wake-up call for them. They're just interested in what the next step on the career ladder is going to be for them. And that is why Britain is broken, because we've had people like that running this country for ages. And Stephen, every right to say, you know, that it's awful for people like Michelle O'Neill, this First Minister of Northern Ireland, to call people racists for protesting in the street. They're not racists. They're angry. They're rightly angry. They've been governed by fools for 20 years, and they wonder, you know, our establishment now wonder, why have we got no truck anymore? Why have we got no authority? Well, that's why.
Peter in Liverpool, you are live with James Walker, the Associate Editor of the Daily Express. Good morning, Pete.
Hi.
Thank you for your call. What do you think about all of this?
It was your earlier conversation with Mike Neville, talking about recruitment to the services.
Yeah.
And I tried to ring up the other day because somebody made a comparison with the United States and Britain. Well, the big difference is that in the United States, you could go around a lot of headstones in France, and a lot of those names would be first and second generation immigrants who would put their hand on their heart and say they love their country. Now, make the same comparison to today. Would those people come into our country today, to Britain, would they join up? Would they volunteer? Would they uphold the values of Britain? I don't think so.
Of course not, Peter. I mean, a lot of people in this country now are so poorly integrated, Peter, they don't consider themselves British.
No, a lot would. They're glad to come here and take the benefits of democracy and everything that our previous generations have fought for, but they're not going to. Not like the First and Second World War, where people volunteered and wanted to fight. And now, when you put the flag up, even when you put the Union flag up, you've got councils and people who want to tear it down.
It's sick. It's sick.
Grandparents fought for that flag.
Well, Peter, you're so right, and I wish we had longer. Another brilliant call, Peter. Promise me you'll call me again soon. James Walker, your reaction?
I mean, he's completely right. I would say, he asked, would they join up, would they volunteer? I think credit where it's due, I think some would. I think there's some really decent people who've come into this country and care about this country and want to integrate. Unfortunately, there is a sizable, still a minority, but a sizable minority who don't care.
Let me tell you that The Express is a cracking read thanks to its top journalism. James Walker is the associate editor of the Daily Express. Will you come back soon?
Of course, Mark. Thanks for having me again. Really
Nailed it on your first outing of the show. James, really enjoyed that conversation. Much more to come, including Dolan's Dispatch next. I'm not pulling my punches. In fact, today's Dolan's Dispatch might get me cancelled. Good. It's in 2 minutes' time. Don't go anywhere. Get the kettle on Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Dolan's Dispatch coming. Might get me cancelled. Good. Good morning. Happy Saturday, one and all. Mark Dolan with you on Talk Breakfast. Your weekend starts here. It is 3 minutes past 9. And have I got news for you? Breaking this morning, the Prime Minister strikes back, blasting critics with a clear message. I'm here to stay. But can the beleaguered Premier turn things around? Or is he the captain of a sinking ship? Meanwhile, the Pope, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, says that we're all migrants. Is he right? And the BBC blast Brexit, saying the economists have agreed that it's been bad for the country. Well, is that true? Almost a decade now since the Brexit referendum. Are we better off out? And our conversation this morning is a very important one. It follows Southampton, it follows Rhiannon White, it follows Belfast on Monday. The country's in trouble. We got big problems. The economy, our society, the highest energy costs in the developed world, poorly integrated communities, an economy in freefall, in which a country doesn't live within its means. Open borders. We got problems. But can we fix it? And if so, is there time? So my question this morning is a simple one. Is it too late to save Britain? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Or leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. And we'll kick off, as always, at this time every Friday, Saturday and Sunday with Dolan's Dispatch. Am I missing something here? A Sudanese asylum seeker is charged with committing a frenzied attack on an innocent man in Belfast, and the public are told not to be angry. A British Sikh man convicted of the murder of an 18-year-old boy, Henry Novak, with cops seemingly more concerned with the false accusation of racism than the anguished words of Novak, who tried to tell cops he'd been stabbed as he bled out of his own body. Once again, the public are told, don't be angry. What else shouldn't we be angry about? The triple murder in Southport, which saw 3 little girls slain at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class at the hands of a dangerous monster in Axel Rudacabana. A man whose former head teacher had raised concerns about how dangerous he was before being accused of racial profiling. Are we allowed to be angry about the violent murder of Wayne Broadhurst, whose alleged attacker was an Afghan migrant? Can we be angry about Thomas Roberts, aged just 21, killed in Bournemouth in 2022 by, you guessed it, an Afghan asylum seeker? Can we be angry about Rhiannon White, who died after being stabbed 32 times at the hands of a Sudanese asylum seeker, accommodated at the migrant hotel where she worked? What about the grooming gangs whose wicked crimes were effectively aided and abetted by cops and local politicians who chose to look the other way for fear of being called racist or inflaming community tensions? How much more of this have we got to take? Can we be angry that sexual assault, stabbings, shoplifting, property crime and antisocial behaviour are now the norm in modern Britain? Is it OK to be angry that some of our city centres now have concrete barriers so that cars cannot drive into the public and run them over? Can we be angry that Christmas markets in Manchester, for example, now require armed cops? The list of horrors goes on and on and on. It's never a surprise now to open the papers and read about this stuff. It is daily life. Now, clearly, the sort of violent protests that we saw in Northern Ireland following Monday's attack were appalling and wrong. Breaking the law is never acceptable. It's never the answer. But it's hard to listen, isn't it, to politicians like Sir Keir Nothing to See Here Starmer, with their hand-wringing, with their thoughts and prayers, with their sober words, with their calls for calm. The public are not stupid. They can now see a clear link between uncontrolled immigration and rising crime. Violence is never justified, but politicians will rue the day that they ignore genuine public anger about a rapidly changing and increasingly dysfunctional society that they didn't vote for. I don't know about you, but I fear for my kids. Anger is not just allowed, it is, in fact, our public duty, because without it, things will never change and will only get worse. So in my view, it's not too late to save Britain. But time is running out. It's 5 minutes to midnight. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. 0344 499 1000. Daniel's in Epsom. Good morning, Daniel.
Hello, Mark. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. No one that I know wants to break the law, burn down houses, set fire to cars, throw stones at cops. What they do want is change, and what they do want is this nightmare to end.
Yeah, but I mean, Mark, if you consider that the British majority for 25, 30 years have been asking successive governments to make legal immigration really low numbers and be very selective, and we don't want illegal immigration, yet for 30 years we've been ignored. Sometimes, mate, you have to smash things up. I mean, if 30 years of giving your government instruction to do something and they refuse to do it, then you no longer, in my opinion, live in a democracy, do you? And then you're quite entitled to riot and do what you like, because people have given. Listen, I know you're in the public eye and you can't say that. You have to, play along. But
well, you're entitled to your view. You are allowed to say that we should smash things up. I mean, I don't think that, Daniel, but I do understand the anger. Your feeling is, well, why do you take that view, Daniel?
Well, I take that view because I've got 3 children, okay, and I look at the way that I used to. I was just coming of age in 1997, okay, and I can remember the country before 1997. I can remember when there were 25% less people in the country. I can remember when it was much more homogenous, when there was much less crime, when it was much safer. We got over the 80s. And we went into the 90s and, there were Indian families and black families.
Right. It was a multi-ethnic society that worked, wasn't it, Daniel?
Yeah, it was, because it was still sort of 90% native British people, but we kind of rubbed along together quite nicely, and the country was going in the right direction. But I think when Blair got in and then the subsequent Tory party after, we've seen mass immigration from the third world. It is obviously destroying the fabric of our country. It's ruining our home.
And it's killing the economy as well.
It's killing the economy. And the thing is, now we are at 5 to midnight, Mark, and I agree with you that something urgent needs to be done. But I think that it's quite clear and obvious that we need a party of the right to come in, get on top of law and order and immigration straight away, okay? And to get rid of net zero, we just need sensible government, sensible right-of-centre government.
Common sense.
I think that Rupert Lowe and Nigel will be judged, and Ben, for that matter, Ben that was on the show earlier. I think history will judge them. They'll never forgive them. We need putting party politics to one side. It's obvious and clear what this country needs. It needs bold, strong, tough, right-of-centre government. And if we can't get that through petty fighting and egotistic sort of arguments, and if the British majority don't get that because of pettiness, history will judge them. I'll never forgive them. I'll never ever forgive them, because I think we need to get past that. It's so serious now. It's such a, I'm worried about. Can you imagine if tomorrow Elon Musk bought a country for £1 trillion? Say he bought Denmark and he said, right, from today, Denmark is just for native white Europeans. They're entitled to their own homeland. And he did that. Can you imagine how many people would move? How many people would just move and go and live there in peace and safety? I would move. And the thing is, this is how desperate things are getting now. It's like we need to put the pettiness and the egos to one side, and we need to come up with a way of putting this country back on track. It's just...
So you'd like to see Nigel hammer out a deal with Kemi, Ben and Rupert?
Not Kemi, because I think,
Interesting.
If she was serious, I think what she would have done is realised why she lost and got rid of half of the party that were socialist, centrist, Lib Dems in blue ties, but she didn't do it. So to me, because she hasn't noticed that and she hasn't done anything, and also for 14 years they talked tough and did nothing. So they can't be trusted. But I think the best vehicle to win, quite clearly, is obviously reform. Now, I also like Rupert. I like Rupert, and I like where he's coming from. But Restore and Reform are fishing for votes in the same pond, Mark. And, we have to accept that. Restore will say, no, we're not, but they are, right? We are. And we need to accept, I think all people on the right have to take a step back and say, right, are we being petty? Are we I think what's going to happen, I personally think what's going to happen is Rupert's going to stop Reform from winning the Makerfield by-election. And I think after that, before the general election, they'll come together.
It will focus. Makerfield will be a warning. It will focus minds.
Yeah. And also, Rupert would have made his point, okay? He would have said, right, I've made my point, I've got you back, you know, and then, because I don't think any of them are stupid enough to keep this going before a general election, because we'll just sink. We'll end up in a Green, SNP, Labour, Socialist alliance, and the country will just sink, mate. Honestly. And people like me...
Rupert can't be called a patriot if he splits the right-wing vote at the next election, can he? How can you be a patriot if you do that? How is that possible? Yeah. Riddle me that.
Well, he calls himself a patriot, yet he sells us all down the river. He can make his point at Makerfield, but I think if he takes it any further, people like me, I mean, I haven't got anywhere to go. I could sell my business and sell my house, but I've got nowhere to go. This is my home, and I want it back. I want my children to grow up in a country like I grew up in.
And Daniel, can we agree that, not that I'm denying the existence of an indigenous culture in this country that built this great nation, but it's not really about skin colour, is it? It's about Britishness, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, I grew up in SE21 with lots of black lads that I still talk to, and we grew up in SE21, and a lot of us moved out to Croydon, and we still talk now. And black families and black lads are telling me that fortunately I moved out, but they're saying that Croydon's gone to you-know-what. I mean, it's a hellhole. So what I'm saying is you've got Indian and black families of second, third generation. If you're proud to be British, like native British people are, join us. Think the same. We should be everyone in this boat should be rowing in the same direction. We can all see that the last 20, 25 years, massive uncontrolled immigration from the third world is ruining our home. And Rupert and Nigel, he can make his point at Makerfield and get Burnham in, but we have to bring the right together for the welfare of my family, your family, and the British majority.
And Daniel, we always love having you on the show. You're a very wise man, and I really appreciate your thoughts, so articulately put. We'll speak soon. Thank you, Daniel. Anne is in Sussex, who's also a rock of sense. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning to you, Mark. I'm so angry now. I've been angry, I think quietly angry for a long time, because I caught a bit of another programme when I was coming on to your show, and the guy was saying about the mental health of the perpetrators of the crimes. You know, these horrific crimes that are being played down by the government, I believe. And I just thought, why don't people realise how deliberate all the changes are that have been going on in our country? And I'm always saying, and I may have said it to you, Mark, if you read the 45 Goals of Communism, it is to destroy the British nation, but I'm angry because I'm English. I can be proud to be Scottish, Irish, Welsh, but we can't be proud to be English. And I'm really angry of what is going on in our country now and how we pick ourselves up when we've got Sharia law, we've got... I work with some Muslims. I don't want to blanket all people of different races, different beliefs, but the ones who are working against us, they're doing it quietly behind the scenes with the support of people in the top powers. I just want this government out. I've got great-grandchildren as well as grandchildren, and I'm frightened of what kind of world they will be in, as I think you're worried about your children.
I am.
And where are we? How can we stop what is going on? We're being lied to all the time. And the mainstream media, it is part of the communist ethos to use the media, the church, to break down the fabric of our society. And in many ways, they've succeeded.
Well, I mean, let's go through it, right, Anne? It's not a conspiracy theory, is it? Open borders, net zero, which is socialism with the green rosette, the cult of welfarism, infantilizing the population, a censorious media. These are all historic instruments of the left.
They definitely are. And some of this government were all members of PIE, what is it, PYE, you know, which is about having sex with young children. And
horrific.
This is why they've done nothing about the abuse of our boys and girls across this nation. And he says, Starmer, that he cares about the children. He doesn't care. He has done nothing. He supported Savile and others.
Well, what happened is, obviously, Anne, just for legal reasons, I have to say that he was DPP at the time. Many people feel that he was asleep at the wheel regarding that one. Of course, he would argue that that case didn't cross his desk, but I think the point stands. And Anne, just briefly, because I need to get to the break, but is it too late? Can we save the country for the next generations?
Only if people wake up and if they stop listening to the lies on some of the channels that I've heard and the BBC. If they stop listening and start investigating, research, find out, look up this woman, Alice Bailey, born in 1880, the Lucas Trust, see what she started, see the forces against this nation. The Queen said there are dark forces, and that is the truth, but none of us realised what was going on, and now it's happening around us.
Damning words, and brilliant call. Enjoyed your company this morning with a historic perspective on where we're going as a country. We've got another great journalist coming into the studio. Is it too late to save Britain? This is Talk Breakfast.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast 9:21. Is it too late to save Britain? I'll be taking your calls back to back in just a few minutes' time. But first, Daily Mail front page. Farce as new Defence Secretary hides from media on first day. Minister missing in action. Of course, this was the week that saw the departure of the Defence Secretary. John Healey in another blow to Keir Starmer's premiership. Let's get reaction now from one of the best connected political journalists in the country, Sophia Slay, Whitehall correspondent at The Sun. Good morning, Sophia.
Good morning.
Very good to see you with us in the studio. Well, a horrible week for the Prime Minister. We've said that a few times. What are the implications of this latest set of resignations?
I think it's probably the final nail in the coffin. I think
we're running out of coffin, aren't we?
We are. I think it was such a blow, and basically it's a big row over defence, and I think it sounds like the Prime Minister tried to get as much money as he could, but he's beholden to a Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and actually an Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, who didn't want to cough up any cash whatsoever to help the defence budget, a Chancellor that wouldn't find the full amount or wouldn't go near the full amount, and he's essentially, I mean, I don't want to quite say powerless, but Keir is the boss. He should have been able to say to Rachel Reeves, find that money, and Ed Miliband, you need to make those cuts to fund defence. But clearly he couldn't. He was powerless, I suppose, in that scenario. They have won. They are auditioning. To me, it looks like Rachel Reeves and Ed Miliband are auditioning for an Andy Burnham government.
Is that right? And therefore doubling down on policies that they think Burnham will continue to pursue?
Yeah.
Which would be net zero and perhaps the bloated welfare budget?
Yeah, and Rachel Reeves has a shot. Amazingly, she looked unbelievably powerless after, you know, the last time they tried to cut welfare and things like that. But strangely now she looks quite a bit more powerful again, because Andy Burnham said that, well, I'll stick to the fiscal rules, and there's a world in which he keeps Rachel on because he doesn't want to spook the markets. I think Ed Miliband would be quite a controversial chancellor that would spook the markets. So there is a world in which actually Rachel is actually growing in power right now.
Well, it's very interesting that you've said that, because I agree. When I saw that headline in the Telegraph today, Miliband's push to be Burnham Chancellor, I'm not sure that will happen because, as you said, God knows how the markets will react. It's difficult for Andy Burnham, isn't it? Because if he wins the Makerfield by-election, and I'll do the candidates in just a moment, if he wins that by-election, he's likely to become our next Prime Minister. Is it a job that you want, given how broke the country is and how many issues it faces? And is it hard for him, given that it's the left of the party that will sweep him to the power, but when he gets in, he'll need to do right-wing things?
Where to start? I suppose he wants to be Prime Minister. The problem with MPs is they all want to be Prime Minister, and they all think they could probably do a better job.
Is it the ketchup bottle that won't open? It's like, give me a go.
Quite. And I do think, look, I fail to see, and I read Andy Burnham's interviews, and I read the quotes, you know, the interview on the front page of the Times. I fail to see, he's absolutely brilliant at talking about the problems. Like you and I are. We're really good at talking about the problems, but you and I don't have to offer solutions, thank God. That's not our job. His job is to offer solutions. And when I read his interviews and I look through, personally, I really struggle to see what are his solutions. You know, he talked about social care. You know, I remember years ago, social care was the big topic.
Theresa May, Boris Johnson.
To solve this. It's awful.
Dementia tax.
And, you know, nothing's been done. OK, so we're talking about it again. But I can't see a solution for it in his interviews, in what he said. So I think the reality is going to hit him if/when he becomes Prime Minister.
Well, that's right. And I almost feel sorry for him in advance, because the two obvious areas for savings would be, wouldn't they, the welfare bill, which now exceeds the income tax take of the country, which is quite the stat, and net zero. Those would be two easy wins, low-hanging fruit. But that'll be difficult for Burnham, because it is the left of the party that will be backing him. And they expect, don't they, the administration to shift left if Starmer goes.
Quite,
But riddle me that, given the nation's finances.
Well, quite, and this is the problem. This is the problem that this government's seeing. The problem this government's seeing is the desires, the wants, the policies and the stance of Labour MPs in a Labour government meets the reality of public finances. Clash, clash, clash. And I think when you've got someone even more idealistic coming in, wanting to spend more money, I mean, tax rises, I can't see any other way around it. You know, the front page of the Times today, this interview with Andy Burnham, he says, I'll cut welfare. Well, when you go into the quotes, it's sort of, he talks about a 10-year approach, public investment, government procurement. I mean, that to me doesn't sound like an answer. That's not hard, I'm going to pull out money. That's a, let me talk around the issue and make me sound like I'm doing
And if you talk about renationalising the utilities, there may be an argument for that. But again, that won't feed through to any great advantage for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you know, and so what? So let's say he does, there is some sort of coronation, or he wins a leadership race in the next few weeks or months. He's really going to have sort of a couple of years maximum, what, a year and a half, maybe a year to do anything. You can't, you're not going to feel the change in that time. The public they've run out of patience. They had very little patience when this government came in, which I was sort of quite forgiving for. You know, I kind of thought the new government, there's going to be some bumps in the road, they're going to mess up. We should give them some time. They've made a lot of mistakes, and, you know, we're quite a few years in now, and they haven't been able to make huge changes, huge differences, let alone Andy coming in a few weeks' time and trying to make ripples. I can't see that there's going to be tangible, like, things that people can feel that he can do.
Meanwhile, we've heard that Sir Keir Starmer's former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, is back advising the Prime Minister again.
Yes, yeah.
Is this the blind receiving directions from the blind?
I don't know. I mean...
He obviously was the Svengali behind that election victory.
Yeah.
But as Chief of Staff in Number 10, I mean, it's not gone swimmingly, has it, for the first 18 months? And McSweeney was the architect of that.
To me, the fact that he's sort of back helping the PM sort of says that the PM's quite lonely right now, quite isolated. I think that's probably what I would read into.
This is having a friend in the building.
I'm a bit jaded and cynical when I read all these things about these Svengalis and these clever operators. I'm so jaded, it's unreal. So I'm a bit cynical about all these characters that we talk up. However, I think it speaks more to the PM being isolated.
Most definitely. What are your thoughts about the fallout from Belfast on Monday and the political legacy of that? What's the mood music about how Starmer reacted to what happened in Belfast?
My sort of take, I'm a bit confused about all of that, to be honest, where we sit today. I think, and again, I'm trying not to be jaded and cynical. I've been reporting on politics for quite a few years now, and it feels like when something really major, shocking, awful, horrendous, tragic happens, within a few days, the conversation in London, in Westminster, has descended into conversations about words, what MPs say, and social media. And time and time again, I feel like we're losing the heart of the issue. Why people are upset, why people are angry, and I just feel like we're on repeat with it. It's so easy to talk about words and to say, your words are bad, you're inciting violence, you're doing this. That's much easier than having a debate about the actual issues.
Stop telling people not to be angry. Henry Novak, it was Konstantin Kisin, the broadcaster, the host of the Trigonometry podcast, who, after the Henry Novak tragedy, said that it's almost like Nigel Farage was responsible for that crime. It's like, no, at the heart of this was a wicked person and a huge injustice. And that's the problem you got. And that my concern about the Prime Minister, nothing to see here, Keir, is this idea of don't be angry, shut up, you're being divisive. It's like, well, no, we need to have a conversation about what's happening in the country.
Absolutely. And, you know, I remember the London riots. The conversation quite quickly sort of then descended into sort of a BBM. Do you remember BBM, the phones? That was how everyone was contacting each other on Blackberries. I remember the big conversation being about that. Yeah, of course that helped facilitate the riots, but it's not to blame for the riots. People are going to riot. When they're angry, they are going to riot. And we need to sort of say, OK, why? Why are they rioting? What are the problems? What are the fractures in their communities? Rather than saying, oh, God, social media bad. Yes, there are problems with social media. Yes, it's facilitating it, but it's not the root cause.
No, and why are people angry in Belfast? Well, because an innocent man was slain, lost an eye and almost died at the hands of somebody that arguably shouldn't have been in the country.
And it's heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking. The only thing that I sort of took a bit of warmth out of that horrendous story was the hero, the two heroes that went in to try and help him. And I just thought those guys were the absolute best of us. I thought they were true heroes. I took a little bit of heart from that after all this absolute horror show.
Sophia, briefly, bit of an exclusive on the show. Ben Habib, former leader of Advance UK, said that what he thinks the right need to do is to have the mother of all political arguments, rather than fighting and cancelling each other out, have a big debate, broad tent, and then hammer out a deal. Your reaction?
Can you really see Kemi Badenoch getting in a room with Nigel, Ben, Rupert Lowe? I think I'll eat my hat if that happens.
Don't be eating your hat today. We love your coverage in The Sun. Sophia, great to see you again. It's been a while. Come back and see us again soon. One of the best connected journalists in Westminster, Sophia Slay, Whitehall correspondent, not at all jaded. She's always sparkling. She's at The Sun newspaper, which is #1 for political scoops. More to come. In fact, your call's next. Is it too late to save Britain?
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is it too late to save Britain? 9:34 Talk Breakfast. Mark is in England's second city of Birmingham. Hello, Mark.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, very happy that you've called. I want to hear what you think. What do you reckon?
Okay, well, what I think, Mark, is this. We've got multiple attacks happening all over the UK. And what's the first thing that somebody does when they carry out an investigation? You take the person's phone and you check the data on it. I almost guarantee that if you go through properly the data that's on there, you will find out that all of these attacks are being directed. This is not just a bloke waking up one day and going, I'm going to go and stab someone. He's being told to do it. The people that are attacking the girls, they're being told to do it. This is organised. And I think that they already know who's organising it, and they're not releasing the information.
And who might those organisers be?
Good question. Good question. Well, somebody that obviously wants to destabilise our country. And I think that well, obviously, as you can see, it's having a major effect. I think this is not just the stabbings. I think this is like when you have the teen riots where they're running around, teenagers just turn up and mob a place.
Yeah.
You know, take the phones off them. Who's directing it? Why aren't we having arrests of the people that are directing it and organising it? Why aren't we having the same with the knife guys and everything else?
We know, Mark, there's evidence that the Iranian regime is starting to look at the boats as a way of getting people who wish harm on the country into the UK. And by the way, what a smart method that would prove to be. And
exactly.
The whole thing, I mean, a lot of people say to me on this show, with the open borders, with the destruction of the economy, with the destruction of our society, the demonisation of the flag, some people are saying this is by design.
I think it's by design. I think what's going to be interesting, what's going to be dangerous now, is if illegal crossings to Ireland start dropping due to the riots, does that mean that other people around the place are going to think, right, that's what they did and it stopped it. Are we going to start doing that in our country?
Fair point. Mark, thank you for that. Call me again soon. Robert is in Hertfordshire. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning. Your last caller, he was bang on the money, but I think what's happening is 30 years ago when you had organised terrorism in this country, it was much easier for MI6 to investigate because they were groups. They could break them down. Now what you've got isolated incidents that you will never, ever police. This is by design. This is probably by the boats coming in, one or two every other 50 boats, but this is by design. But it's almost impossible. Isolated incidents are very hard to police or even, to get to the bottom of. Not like organised terrorism where someone's grassed someone else up and, it goes on. This is why we've got a problem. But the biggest problem is we've got a government who don't think there is a problem. So, therefore, they've got to go, and they've got to go. 3 years, there won't be no country left.
Robert, I think you're right, but I think I'll give you a little correction. I think they know there is a problem, but they won't admit it, and it's only when they leave office that we get the truth.
Well, I think what we got in the government, you've got a mixture of fifth columnists and Marxists, and it's rife in our universities, in our hospitals, in our schools.
Yeah,
it's like a cancer that you've got to cut out with a surgeon's knife, and the only way you're going to do that is a general election. But now, you can't wait till 3 years. There won't be a country left.
Robert, scary thought. But I can't disagree with you. Thank you for that, Robert. Do call me again soon as well. Terence is in Kent, which is the Garden of England. Good morning, Terence.
Good morning. Good morning.
Terence, thank you for calling the show. By the way, I don't understand why we import apples from New Zealand and Fiji when we've got so many in Kent.
Because no one pick them.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? And yet there's 10 million adults of working age not working. Terence, what do you think about all of this? What's your opinion about everything?
Well, I've been just listening this morning. I'm hearing about these immigrants, illegal immigrants. I don't think they should be here. I don't think they should ever be in the country. But they're in the country now, and whether we like it or not, most of them are going to stay here. Now, we are asking them to integrate into society. But hold on a moment. What sort of society are we asking them to integrate into?
Well, I mean, that is exactly it. And it's the same with the military. What would you be fighting for? Terence, I wish we had longer. Thank you for your call. We will speak soon. So many voice notes to catch up on. Dave, the engineer, when you're ready. We love having Dave, by the way. If you weren't listening at 6 a.m, there's a hideous tug of love going on between myself and Talk Sport over Dave's services. Let me tell you that it's a battle that I'm winning. Let's take a voice note. Is it too late to save Britain? Here's Big Adam.
Hi, Mark. Is it too late? It's never too late. Never, ever too late. It's going to be hard work, but it's never, ever too late. You can never give up on this great country because, you know what? If we'd have given up in the war, mate, where would we have been? So, no, it's never too late. And can the right sort themselves out? Yes, I believe they can. And I think they know they have to. And they need to just get around the table, put their big boy pants on, and sit down and just hammer out and go, this, whatever needs doing, just do it, because our country needs it. And for another thing, mate, people will get right behind it because that's what people really want. Anyway, Mark, keep up the great fight, which I know you will anyway. Cheers, mate.
Well, I appreciate your confidence in me, Adam. I will always say it like I see it, and that's it. And you'll never find me really contradict myself because I just think what I think and I say it. Yeah, we adapt and you tweak here and there, but there's no big sort of Burnham-style U-turns for me. It's quite obvious what the country needs. And Adam, I like your message that it's never too late, and I think you're right. And actually, Dean, do you remember when we had Ant Middleton on? And we've got a bid to get him back on soon. And I asked him whether it's too late, and he said, no, it's never too late, and he knows his onions. How about this voice note from Karen?
Hi, Mark. I mean, these marches, these anti-racism marches in Belfast are just going to fan the flames for the local people who feel they're not being heard and they feel lost and scared and frightened. Man was nearly beheaded in the street and the left keep pushing that narrative away. We need to bring it back to the fact this was an horrific crime and a man was nearly beheaded in the street in public. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. They keep going on about thuggery in Northern Ireland. It's not thuggery. People are not being heard even when they march peacefully. So what do, Mark? What do? They don't know where to go anymore. No one's listening to them and they realise that the government is their enemy now.
Powerful words. Thank you for that, Karen. Earlier, I spoke to the former top cop, Mike Neville, and here is a reaction on a voice note from the other Mike.
Morning, Mark. I'm listening to you and Mike Neville. Mike's got a great point, hasn't he, about a remote Scottish island. We have got, up in the North Sea, as we know, extreme engineering going on, building offshore wind farms. These guys, these engineers, are just monumentally brilliant. They get stuff done. We could divert the money we're wasting on net stupid zero, and get them to build retention centres. They could do it in no time. These guys, seriously, are incredible, but they're doing what I believe is the wrong thing with our money. Thank you. Great show.
Peter, thank you. Mike, thank you for that, Mike. Great voice note. Let's finish on Peter, and it's quite amazing. The Pope has gone woke. You couldn't make it up. Take a listen to this.
Good morning, Mark. Great combination of shirt, tie and jacket there I see this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Pope, the Vatican, refugees. That's odd, really, isn't it, that when you deal with the rat line after World War II with so many Nazis that were aided to get to South America via the Vatican. You know, this government really now has to go, and a general election has to be called. It can't carry on like this. They need to stop overseas aid and put that all on the defence budget. Because if there is no defence budget, there will be no overseas aid left ever to give out to help other countries. So it needs to be paused for at least 10 years now to spend on our defence and stop giving money to all these people that have got more than one wife. Because more than one wife has more than one child. It has to stop. It all has to stop.
Brilliant, Peter. Thank you. I think you speak for many. You are listening to Talk, and it's a very, very interesting conversation we're having this morning. Is it too late to save Britain? I think you're about 50-50 down the middle. But more on this to come. It is 9:43. This is Talk Breakfast.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership and a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast 9:45, always the highlight of the week, to be joined by Virgin Radio star Steve Denyer. Hello, Steve.
Hello, very good morning. It's always great to be here, starting the weekend with you. How you doing?
I'm very well, and we're going to choose a special year, and our audience have to guess what year it is based upon a selection of clues and clips.
And breaking news, I'm going to try and not give it away because a few people got in touch and said, Steve, you ruined it last week.
You always say the date right at the beginning. And I'll tell you for why. It's because you're such an honest guy.
I don't like lying to the people.
You're a very rare beast in the media, an authentic human being with a soul.
Thank you very much. I'm welling up here. Thank you. That was quite a moment.
It's a miracle that you've prevailed in this industry. Because normally you've got to be like our executive producer, Dean Spencer, who's not a good person.
He's a horror story, isn't he?
He's going places and he's doing well, but, you know, he's not someone I would entrust in the care of my
it's when
children.
the chairs start flying in the little production office.
Don't lend him a fiver.
Right. OK.
I mean, seriously.
Thank you for the tip on that. Can I start by telling you?
Well, I want to talk about this because I'm excited. The biggest media franchise from the 90s is back.
It is back. That's exactly where I was going. TFI Friday Unplugged. It was on Channel 4 last night, and it's all the best bits of Chris Evans' breakfast show on the week on Virgin Radio. And we put it together, and it's a bespoke show. And it's like what would happen if TFI Friday from the 90s came back. It's a beautiful kind of unplugged, almost podcast-like show. If you're watching at the moment, you'll see Michael Fassbender. Damian Lewis was on the show.
Great actor.
Beth Mead, the Lioness, came in on the day that the World Cup started with some exclusive news about her next venture and her tenure and stuff. So it's really great stuff.
I'm really
also
enjoying
dodgy, Three Lions. You see the Lightning Seeds performing Three Lions back in the 90s as well. So it's all sewn in. It's 48 minutes. If you look carefully, you'll see me clapping and looking like a maniac.
Listen, it's a brilliant show, and it's great to share an office with Chris Evans, a titan of broadcasting. Occasionally I try to catch his eye, and then he gets his people, and then they move me away.
Do they remove you back down to the corridor?
They just literally lift my body and just move me away. The heavies, the Chris Evans heavies.
You have a word. I'll have a word.
I know what happened because I'm staring at him and drooling slightly, and they just say, "Step away, step away from Mr. Evans." Listen, brilliant. YouTube, TFI Friday Unplugged, highly recommend.
Yeah, you can get it on our YouTube page, Virgin Radio UK. If you hit subscribe, then you'll always get... You'll be the first person to watch every new episode. I think it's at 6 p.m. on a Friday, so you get to watch it before it airs on Channel 4. So you get the exclusive there. So it's all good. And there's 16 episodes all waiting for you, and they're really good stuff. Some of the world's biggest stars, as you know, come in on this floor at the top of the tower every morning. So it's a pleasure and an honour to be involved.
Well, listen, you've got a glorious year for us.
Yes, can I take you to, well, probably the biggest worldwide story in this mystery year that I haven't given away yet. This happened on the 2nd of April, 1982. This was...
I mean, it's golden. It's golden. And I'm delighted to say that Dean Spencer... Dean Spencer...
Oh, no!
Executive producer, he's just made £100.
We'll edit that bit out. Let's see the clip.
Within the past hour, the Ministry of Defence announced important progress in the battle to recapture the Falklands. British paratroops have retaken Darwin and Goose Green. Initial reports are that British casualties are light. In Argentine air attacks on the San Carlos beachhead earlier, 4 Marines and a Royal Engineer were reported killed and 20 more wounded.
Now, we can forgive you revealing the year.
Dear.
And it goes back to me saying about you that you're as pure as the driven snow.
I wanted to get the exact date right, and then unfortunately I put the year on the...
You nailed it. And but listen, it is amazing that in this year that actually British territory was invaded.
Yes. I mean, lots of us didn't even know about, you know, the
lot of people
island.
Barely heard of it.
And also, what's really interesting, I mean, there's a few things. This was the first television war, really, of its kind that obviously, you had to watch the news in order to get it at bespoke times. But it's the first time we'd seen war in action on the day that those events
There was this rather dusty newscaster, and Reginald Bosanquet, I think his name was.
Yes.
And he would deliver these rather austere bulletins.
Yes, indeed. And it made stars of reporters, didn't it? Because you trusted them and they delivered the news. Also, Margaret Thatcher's ratings before this war were pretty bad.
Yeah.
And she managed to turn it round. I think, you know, it lasted 74 days. So at the end of the war, she had some of the best figures of her premiership.
Well, that's right, because in '82 the economy was not doing well. Inflation, unemployment, things were not great. She wins a war, she gets a bounce, wins the election, the rest is history.
Yeah. However, you know, horrendous statistics. We lost 255 British military personnel. There are a lot of people died.
We lost 255 milliners. It's a lot of hat makers.
A lot happened.
It was quite extraordinary, and so many people gave their lives, and also injuries as well. And I've interviewed Simon Weston.
Yes.
Who's a total legend of the Falklands War.
He became maybe like the vision of, you know, the face, if you like, of that war, didn't he?
Most definitely, a total hero, as they all are. And may God rest their souls, those that paid with their lives.
Indeed.
It was a big moment for the country. What else happened in this mystery year?
Well, here we are. So if someone's just tuned in, they wouldn't have heard me give away the year.
You've got it back.
So we can restart. But let me tell you, on the 21st of June, this was announced to the rest of the world, but some royal family news. Take a look at this.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. It's a prince, a 7-pound, 1.5-ounce boy, born late today to Prince Charles and the Princess of Wales, Lady Diana. The child becomes the most truly English heir to the British monarchy in more than 400 years. Tom Fenton reports from joyous London.
Oyez! 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 Her Royal Highness Princess of Wales Diane has given birth to a baby son. God save the Queen!
Just wonderful.
I love it because there was no social media, there was no websites. They had to... The official birth announcement was placed on an easel outside Buckingham Palace, and it was the first birth that we saw, you know, reporters outside. This was St Mary's Hospital, actually, in London, where they all kind of pretty much camped outside. Royal protocol was broken because Diana came out, you know, with the baby. We got to see the baby as soon as she came out. Apparently Prince Charles was present when Prince William was born. Which never used to happen, and he got very emotional and he cried, and we found out that. So it was a very modern birth, really. Prince William born on this date in this year, mystery year, maybe.
And it's my humble opinion that William's a great lad, and I can't think of the last stupid thing he did or said. He's a very respectable chap, very intelligent, very articulate, wife, 3 kids. You know, he's doing, old Williams. He's doing well, and of course he'll be king at some point.
And I was going to say the future, completely the future.
Do you think that this new, you know, when Charles passes, which is hopefully many years from now, but when it happens, do you think this will be rejuvenating for the monarchy to have a young king?
I think so. We haven't experienced that, have we?
We've never lived
in our
through that.
lifetime. So I think it really will be a fresh new slate. And you know, from what we hear, from what we know, he will change the monarchy. He will strip it back. There'll be fewer people on the balcony. Some of the controversies that we've read about, we've heard about on Talk of recent years, I think will gradually be ironed out.
And of course, it will be very much about the two of them, won't it? It'll be William and Catherine.
Yes.
And King and Queen.
Yeah, and you can see them on our notes and our, you know, our coins and stuff. They've got the look, haven't they? I think that we'll be very proud when that happens, and it will happen probably within our lifetime.
Most likely.
This year, Matt, can you remember the first compact disc you ever bought?
I do, and it will have been Elton John because I'm addicted to his work.
Yes.
And I remember the jump in quality.
Yes. They tested out CDs, apparently, using jam and fingerprints, and they all still worked. The first CDs became available in Japan back in this year. Apparently, the first huge selling CD was Dire Straits and their album, you know, Brothers in Arms.
Huge.
That was the
Money
one
for Nothing was on there.
People started buying those stereo stack systems, and you had CDs and stuff.
Walk of Life.
Exactly. And I can just hear how brilliant it sounded in CD quality as well.
It did. I think there was a big Fleetwood Mac album around the same time that did very well.
The very first one was Billy Joel, apparently. That was the very first CD.
An Innocent Man?
That came out. Yes, yeah, indeed it was, yeah. And it was, that was like, they kind of released it and they tested it. The problem is the first CD players cost about £700 when it was new pioneering technology. But within a couple of years, it helped that you had the MTV, you had the videos, then you had music with great quality. So it was a big year.
It was a big step up, because do you remember the cassettes that used to break and they would, all the tape would come out and make a right mess?
Well, the CDs decimated the sales of tapes and vinyl. Lots of people said, well, that's it for vinyl. It would never come back. And it's mad, isn't it? Years later, we now love it. I mean, I've got a vinyl player at home, and that sound of when you put the needle on the record and the crackles before the record begins is great. And you don't get that with, you know, streaming or CDs and stuff. So it's funny how things work out. But this was the definitive year that CDs came out. Can I take you... Now, the reason why we're doing this year is because it was this week, back in this year, that this movie came out. And everybody remembers seeing this. Have a look.
I'm keeping him. You can't tell. Not even Mom. Please stay with me.
Where are we going? Follow me!
I'll be right here.
Oh, what a movie.
Classic.
Steven Spielberg's new movie comes out this weekend, but it was like literally 2 days ago that E.T. was released in the cinema. My favourite fact about E.T., that voice was a 92-year-old woman who'd been smoking her whole life.
Is that a fact?
And they got her in to do the...
That's just perfect.
Also, Reese's Pieces, apparently, weren't... It was supposed to be a Mars product. Mars said, we don't want to have anything to do with this, so they went with Reese's Pieces. But it is such an emotional film, such a great, groundbreaking film. And Steven Spielberg was in charge of so many of those big movies.
It's amazing if you look at his career. Jaws, E.T., and then, of course, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park. I mean, is he the greatest director, or at least the most successful director in history, would you say?
And they're all very, very, very different movies, aren't they? Schindler's List completely different from the likes of Jaws, but he's great every now and again, giving us one of these films that just sums up an entire generation, doesn't it? It just marks the decade, the year, the time, and E.T. and Jaws were very much that.
Have you heard anything about the latest one?
Well, I hear it's got mixed reviews.
I saw a 1-star review somewhere, but...
Yeah, but everybody's saying, interestingly enough, go and see it and make up your own mind. I think the trouble is with Steven Spielberg, like we say, there's so many great films in his back catalogue that it's really hard to produce something that is immediately as iconic as something like E.T. But that did come out this year. We touched on the fact that MTV had just launched what MTV did is it made artists really focus on their image, their videos. The videos suddenly became as important as the song for record sales, and no one was better, and say what you like about this artist, nobody was better than Michael Jackson, who made and gave us this. Have a look at this. So, you know, if people are just listening to the radio right now, you'd be able to picture what Michael Jackson looked like and what he was doing in the dance routine and the scary eyes and that whole production. Nobody had seen... That was an epic... It was a movie, like a bespoke